Part 97. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Rusiahua. Chapter 988. In Shangguan Dandan's eyes, the emperor is a profession, and at the same time he must have the awareness to work hard for the ruling group and work 24x365. I wonder if he can do it if he is asked to work like this? Shangguan Dandan was just thinking about it for fun. After all, he was her beloved moth. How could she let him work day and night for her canteen? After Shangguan Dandan touched Lu Chang'an's head, he pinched his ears again and pinched her own ears. His own ears were soft, while Lu Chang'an's ears were like crispy braised pig ears. Are you bothered? After being touched by her for a while, Lu Chang'an realized that she was not done yet, so he couldn't help but turn his head and glance at her. Shangguan Dandan didn't pay attention, and still stretched his hand high to touch the back of his head. Lu Chang'an turned her head again and couldn't help frowning. She still had the same expression of pursed lips and being lost in thought. She was touching him with her hands and thinking about other messy things in her mind. This reminded Lu Chang'an that sometimes he would step on Lu Sin to lose his mind, so he opened Shangguan Dandan's hand. Whether she was waving to people or touching others, it felt like she was teasing cats and dogs. Very unpleasant. Shangguan Dandan stopped touching and lay down with the thermos bottle in one hand. He curled up and leaned against Lu Chang'an's arms. He stretched out his neck and yawned. He kicked the hem of the skirt with the jade rabbit pattern in gold silk and embroidery with his toes. The cloth shoes fell to the ground. She didn't get up to pick up her shoes, but just tensed her insteps, and her slender toes were pressed together, feeling as crisp as freshly dug radishes in the cool morning air. My shoe fell off, Shangguan Dandan snorted twice and looked up at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone and thought to himself that mobile phones are really a great invention. He can avoid being embarrassed when he has nothing to do. It can be used to express that he is not very interested in the person he is communicating with, and it can also form a kind of barrier. Shangguan Dandan didn't use his hair to pick up his shoes. Lu Chang'an's chest was warm and he didn't want to move at all while lying there. It would be better if Dong Dong didn't go to school and lay like this with him. As he lay there, Shangguan fell asleep, and then he was woken up by the sound of helicopters whining in the sky. In fact, Shangguan Dandan didn't know what the helicopter was calling, but Zhou Shuling said it was whining, which made Shangguan Dandan suspect that Zhou Shuling would also whine, he. When Lu Chang'an saw that she was awake, he held her shoulders to prevent her from rolling down. In fact, she was more likely to fall down when she was awake than when she was asleep. Shangguan Dandan, who fell asleep quietly, made people feel quiet and beautiful. Yiren, as soon as she woke up, Lu Chang'an no longer had this feeling of loving and protecting her. It seems to be Xiaotang's helicopter, the one with many buttons. I will fly it next time, Shangguan Dandan said with determination. No, you still don't know how to ride an electric bike. Lu Chang'an glanced at the electric bike locked under the sycamore tree. Shangguan Dandan's love for electric cars has cooled down a bit. The last time she went to Nanshan Ranch, Lu Chang'an rode it on the roof of Bailong Center. Shangguan Dandan locked the electric car there, and she forgot to bring it back after she came back. It was Zhu Huntang who sent the bread man to bring it back for her. Just because I can't ride an electric bike doesn't mean I can't drive a helicopter. Shangguan Dandan sat up and pressed Lu Chang'an's chest. He picked up the thermos and started pouring water. Even if he took a short nap, he would wake up. Drinking water. Believe me, that's not something you can learn, Lu Chang'an told him sincerely. With Zhu Huntang's consistent style, if Shangguan Dandan wanted to fly a helicopter, she would not only not dissuade him, but would also follow Shangguan Dandan. Crash. At that time, forget it when the helicopter crashes, and no one cares about a sheep or a bird falling from the sky, destroying public buildings and property in Juncha City, and scaring the peaceful and happy people of Juncha. What should we do? Shang Guandandan drank water and turned a deaf ear to Lu Chang'an's dissuasion. For now, he only planned to fly a helicopter. After he became proficient in flying skills, he would fly a big plane with wings. Lu Chang'an always thought that Shang Guandandan was doing whatever he wanted. The situation was chaotic, but how could the Queen Mother not have a plan and thorough consideration? Lu Chang'an still wanted to say a few words, but he saw that the helicopter in the sky had arrived above the community and began to slowly lower its altitude. Huh? Didn't Zhu Huntang want to send Yan Hui back by helicopter? Lu Chang'an was a little confused. Of course Zhu Huntang could send someone off with a helicopter and come to the community with a helicopter, but Lu Chang'an only heard the roar of one helicopter and no second one flew by. Why does it feel like there is one of my daughter-in-law on this small plane? Shang Guandandan looked at Lu Chang'an in confusion. Lu Chang'an turned a blind eye to the confusion in her eyes, didn't hear it, and didn't need to answer. It seems that Yan Hui is on this helicopter. Did she want to come here for a visit before leaving? But there is not a large open space in this community suitable for taking off and landing such a large helicopter. Only Shang Guandandan thought it was a small plane. In the eyes of normal people, this thing was a huge thing, flying in a luxurious space in the sky. The helicopter did not land, but hovered in the air. The cabin door was opened. Zhu Huntang, who was carrying a large box and wearing a gold war doll suit, stepped on an aircraft that was about the size of a square table for 8 people. He looked majestic and 8-person. Landed on the ground. Lu Chang'an found that the water vapor content in the air was too high today, and his chest was tight and bloated, making him feel uncomfortable all over. After Zhu Huntang landed safely, the helicopter raised its altitude and left. I was very cautious. I did not immediately experience the long-distance flight function of the new aircraft, but used it for landing. Zhu Huntang was very satisfied with his caution. He swung his hands back and forth against his trouser legs and jumped from the 30-centimeter high aircraft. He landed firmly, and then did the gesture of a gymnast opening his arms after landing to thank the audience. In terms of appearance and overall performance, you, Zhu Huntang, are the best. Lu Chang'an nodded. Many people have ideas and creativity, but none of them have Zhu Huntang's ability to turn ideas and creativity into practical results. Basically, as long as the idea is not too outrageous, sci-fi or surreal, Zhu Huntang can come up with it. Xiao Tang is the best, Shang Guandandan praised, beckoning Zhu Huntang to come over and touch her head. Zhu Huntang came bounding over with a box on her back, wearing a golden sheep doll costume. It gave Lu Chang'an the feeling that she was not like a human being with the ability to transform into a sheep, but like a sheep in the natural environment, with the ability to transform into a sheep. Of people's abilities. This can better explain her words and deeds, which are less like a human and more like a sheep. Dan, I also brought you a set of golden war robes. Go ahead and put it on and let's play together. Zhu Huntang took off the box on his back. The shape and pattern of the box imitated the Saint Seiya cloth box, and a password system was installed. Zhu Huntang entered the password 123,456 and helped Shang Guandandan take out the golden war doll suit inside. Lu Chang'an closed his eyes as he watched her enter the password. His commonly used password is 6/8, but he set it up this way mainly because when entering the password using the 9-square numeric keyboard, his thumb is exactly at the number 8, so he does not need to move his fingers. There is no need to bend your knuckles, just drop your fingertips for easy pressing. When I get dressed, we will walk around the community together and let others see how cute we are, Shang Guandandan said, tilting his head. Cute, Zhu Huntang echoed loudly. Seeing Shang Guandandan walk into the utility room to change clothes, Zhu Huntang said to Lu Chang'an, I came to play with you early in the morning, aren't you very happy? Look at the expression on my face, does it have anything to do with the emotion of happiness? Lu Chang'an said to Zhu Huntang, who was suffering from cognitive impairment and was incurable. Yes, It does matter. I am flattered in my heart but calm on the surface. This is a typical tsundere, Zhu Huntang said with certainty. Lu Chang'an closed his eyes again and let her play with Shang Guandandan. It was still early for class anyway, so he would drive her to school when it was almost time. I want to practice explosive strength, Zhu Huntang said again. Lu Chang'an stood up quickly. Zhu Huntang started pushing on his shoulders and back. Ha! 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 Ha ha, Zhu Huntang muttered, ha ha. After trying several times, he still couldn't find the feeling that the burst of power could shake the mountains yesterday. Hey! I'm tired. Let's rest for a while. Zhu Huntang quickly gave up and occupied Lu Chang'an's recliner, lying on it with his limbs spread out. Lu Chang'an took a deep breath and looked up at the lush sycamore leaves. He turned around, placed Zhu Huntang on the ground, and beat him. After the beating, he was kicked again and again. Grabbing one of her legs, swinging it left and right and slamming it onto the ground, it was the famous scene in the movie Avengers where the Hulk smashed Loki. After smashing it, Lu Chang'an threw Zhu Huntang into the sky, then jumped up to catch up, kicked her higher and higher, grabbed her heels in the air and turned her around, and finally let go and threw her toward the boundless deep space. She would never come back to Earth to be annoying again, and Lu Chang'an couldn't help but smile with satisfaction. Damn, old man! What are you laughing at? Have you finally realized that you have found an excellent and talented heir? Knowing that there is someone to succeed the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect, you can abdicate and let her take the throne and let her do whatever she wants as the sect leader. Zhu Huntang looked at Lu Chang'an, who was looking up at the sky and smiling, and calmly analyzed his psychological motives. Lu Chang'an didn't say anything. He took out his mobile phone to dial and called Sume. Do you have time recently? Why don't you come back and rest for a while, and teach Zhu Huntang well together with me? Mixed doubles. This word couldn't help but come to mind. Zhu Huntang was shocked. He wished he could learn to fly out of the Earth and circle around the solar system without ever returning to the Earth. This bad old man finally revealed his hidden plan all along, which was to unite with his mother, torturing her innocent, carefree bleed. I recommend my new book. My ex-boyfriend said he came back from cultivating immortality. It has almost 200,000 words. You can read it in your spare time. All kinds of requests. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 989. Tiandu is a genius. Zhu Huntang remembered an ancient idiom. The original word of Tiandu Meke is Tiandu Yingke, which means that if a person is excellent to a certain level, he will most likely be poisoned by heaven to prevent the other person from defying heaven. Zhu Huntang is a talented person who can defy the heavens. The existence of the old man who is irresistible is similar to the great will of heaven. Even the leader of evil forces in the world like my mother can only follow his will and honestly become an Antarctic. Recently, Zhu Huntang has performed so well that he has attracted the attention of the bad old man. After all, he is still nostalgic for the inn and reluctant to leave, and he is reluctant to part with the position under his butt, so he decided to kill Zhu Huntang to avoid being threatened by Zhu Huntang. The position of the leader of the sword sect. Zhu Huntang was a little sad. The golden battle doll suit she gave to Dan Dan today was a bit like political bribery. As long as Dan Dan took a closer look at the box, he would see Zhu Huntang's slogan for competing for the position of sect leader, "Let Dan Dan be the leader of the section Zhu Fenglai sword sect has become great again." Please support Zhu Huntang, the beautiful girl, fairy, and the controller of the universe. She also customized some gifts for running for the sect leader and prepared to send them to a series of important figures such as Zhou Shuling and Zhou Dongdong. This is exactly the strategy that Zhu Huntang had thought of before. By giving gifts to hint and influence his will, he created a public perception among the people around Old Man Zhao that the position of sect leader should be passed on to Zhu Huntang. When Lu Chang'an starts to really consider the candidates for the succession and asks for everyone's opinions, everyone will feel that they must choose Zhu Huntang. Isn't this a matter of course? Even Lu Chang'an, when such close people reach a unified understanding, will have an idea: if I don't let Zhu Huntang be the heir, wouldn't it be a betrayal of everyone? Originally everything was under Zhu Huntang's control. It's just that it has just started operating today, but it has already aroused his vigilance, and he will join forces with the leader of one of the evil forces in the world to suppress Zhu Huntang. It's a pity that Zhu Huntang was already nearly 50-50 equal to Lu Chang'an in terms of military force. Now with his ironclad mother, Zhu Huntang would be at a slight disadvantage and had to avoid his edge. Zhu Huntang clasped his hands on his chest with a cold expression, squinting at Lu Chang'an and his mother after they finished the phone call, and countless wise and mighty thoughts passed through his mind. You have fallen into the trap. I have been trying to get my mother to return to Juncha to compete for favor. Otherwise, she would be in Antarctica and would not be able to use even the most basic seduction techniques, let alone compete with Qin Yanan for nutritional resources. Zhu Huntang became arrogant again. No matter what you do, it is actually part of my plan, and I will win in the end. Lu Chang'an frowned, looked at his phone and thought for a moment, thinking about the pros and cons of Su Mei returning to Juncha, and finally felt that Zhu Huntang was more intolerable. After all, he was able to control Su Mei, had a certain influence on her behavior, and allowed her to control some excessive thoughts. But can he control Zhu Huntang? Now she is completely out of control. She acts recklessly and unscrupulously. She acts coquettishly when she gets into trouble. She pretends to be nice for 3 minutes when Lu Chang'an is furious. Be blessed. Okay, you are Ying Zheng who got electrocuted, you win, Lu Chang'an said nonchalantly. The thought of Su Mei coming back to beat and scold Zhu Huntang made him feel extremely happy, and he even wanted to cook some side dishes and drink some wine. How could Ying Zheng be electrocuted? You are an illiterate. There is no electricity in the Qin dynasty, Zhu Huntang sneered. Lu Chang'an's indifferent attitude was unpleasant, which greatly reduced Zhu Huntang's sense of accomplishment that Zhejiang succeeded in his plan. The spider is with me, and his wit is unparalleled. This is a postscript formed by the new era's internet culture radiating from traditional culture. Lu Chang'an pointed to the utility room. Hurry up and take Shang Guandandan out to play. I don't want to see you two wandering around in front of me. No, I want to play with you, Zhu Huntang refused. I don't want to play with you. I can play with you if I want. Do you believe I threw you back to the roof of Bailong Center? Lu Chang'an stood up and clapped his hands. Zhu Huntang pursed his lips tightly and thought for a moment, then put his hands to his sides and said, Come on, do you think I look like a rocket getting ready for launch? Lu Chang'an also thought about it, found a rope and tied Zhu Huntang to the sycamore tree, then went to Zhou Shuling's kitchen to find bound hooves, chopped them up and made a simple salad. Then he found the wine Lu Yuwang gave him last year and sat on the balcony. While eating and drinking, he looked at Zhu Huntang, who was struggling and howling. It was simple and rough, but it gave people a feeling of leisure and comfort. Maybe it was the happiness of a family. For a while, Lu Chang'an understood Shang Guandandan a little. Unfortunately, the good times did not last long. When Shang Guandandan heard Zhu Huntang howling outside, he quickly changed into a gold war doll costume and went out to rescue Zhu Huntang. Seeing Zhu Huntang groaning and pulling Shang Guandandan, the two strange creatures dressed as sheep were about to go upstairs together. Lu Chang'an took advantage of them to walk into the corridor, quickly jumped off the balcony with wine and food, and then went to the mahjong parlor. There was not much business in the mahjong parlor early in the morning. Seeing Lu Chang'an bringing meat dishes and a bottle of good wine, the mahjong parlor owner opened a bag of toothpick beef with a smile and started eating and drinking with Lu Chang'an. Xiao Lu, since your family bought a computer, Zhou Dongdong rarely comes to play with it. The owner of the mahjong parlor looked back at the broken computer in the corner and said. It takes 5 minutes to start up. Apart from playing games, the child himself is unwilling to turn on the computer. I said you need to update the equipment here. You can make a lot of money a year. It's too stingy. Lu Chang'an pointed to the tables and chairs, at least get a few new chairs. Think about it, if you want people to sit here for a day, first of all, you have to sit comfortably, and then people will subconsciously think that this is a place where you can stay for a long time. Shang Guandandan rarely comes to the mahjong parlor, and spends all day in Aunt Xia's mahjong parlor beating away his beard. That's the truth, but when it comes to making money, can your Aunt Xiao Zhou's fan shop make money? I heard that you are going to open a branch. Preparations are coming soon. Are you looking for a waiter? Do you want to introduce someone? My old lady has nothing to do. Forget it, I want someone young and beautiful. Haha, Xiao Zhou is really beautiful. If we use her as a standard to recruit waiters, then we must have at least a monthly salary of over 10,000 yuan to hire one, right? I can't invite you. How many young and beautiful girls are willing to work as waitresses safely and down to earth? Lu Chang'an shook his head. They all want to be internet celebrities. There is nothing wrong with that. Everyone has their own ambitions. While chatting, Zhou Shuling called. After Lu Chang'an took a sip of his small cup, he picked up the phone. Chang'an, go Shanghai, and his father came to the store and they bullied me. Zhou Shuling's voice was aggrieved. It was not so much that she couldn't help but complain after being bullied, but rather that she took the opportunity to act coquettishly. I'm here. Lu Chang'an hung up the phone and pointed to the half bottle of Wulianjai left. I'm giving you an advantage. Thank you, boss. Boss is so generous. I wish boss immortality and eternal life. Lu Chang'an walked out of the community and happened to meet two sheep who came out to look for him, so he led them to Beilong Center. Seeing them leaving, the two breadmen on standby entered the community to recover the aircraft dropped by the eldest lady. Zhu Huntang took his mobile phone, turned on the front camera, looked at himself and Shang Guandandan on the screen, and suddenly showed a shocked expression. Shang Guandandan glanced sideways at Zhu Huntang, and then also looked shocked, staring at the phone screen with Zhu Huntang. We are so cute, Zhu Huntang exclaimed in awe. Shang Guandandan jumped up and down holding his thermos. He didn't imitate Zhu Huntang, but she agreed. How can there be such lovely and beautiful girls like us in this world? Zhu Huntang sighed, I really envy these people on the street, who can appreciate such a beautiful existence directly with their eyes. But we can only appreciate it through lenses, photos, mirrors, etc. After all, we feel a little bit worse. These observation methods cannot accurately restore our true image that amazes the world, especially our temperament. Shang Guandandan also looked at Zhu Huntang with envy. In terms of face, Xiao Tang had perfectly inherited her biological father's qualities and was unparalleled. Zhu Huntang, can you stop being so arrogant and know something about it? Lu Chang'an, as the most perfect extraordinary creature since the birth of the universe, a being that is close to the will of the universe, is not as bragging as she is. Didn't I tell you? Baa can't count, so people are used to counting sheep before going to bed, so that Baa can count. It's morning now, few people are sleeping, and those who are sleeping are the ones who stay up all night. People who are too tired after games or work won't be able to count sheep, so it's normal for me not to count now. Do you understand? If you don't understand, I'll explain it again, Zhu Huntang said patiently. After all, he is for her own stepfather. She was also willing to spend more time and saliva teaching him some common sense in the world. Shut up, I shouldn't talk to you. Lu Chang'an didn't want to listen to her arguments anymore. In fact, they were all fallacies. Giggle, Xiao Tang is so cute. Shang Guandandan turned away from Zhu Huntang's mobile phone camera and handed the thermos flask to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an thought she was asking her to help him take it, so he took it easily. Shang Guandandan took it back again. His palm showed a grip state, which was just enough for Shang Guandandan to put his palm up and be held by him. With this is the second time Shang Guandandan had used this trick before, but Lu Chang'an was still unprepared and let her succeed again. Just hold it. Zhu Huntang ran to the front and took a selfie of the three of them with her mobile phone. Shang Guandandan made a scissor hand gesture. This was what she and Zhou Shuling learned. Old school and upright people all use this posture to take pictures. Except for his daughter-in-law and the people he admires, those who use many poses when taking selfies are all coquettish bitches. Lu Chang'an turned his head and looked at the sky, not cooperating, but Zhu Huntang didn't care much. It was best for the old man not to cooperate, so that he would look like a background board, which would make the photo more elegant, but if he cooperated seriously, he would. It feels like seizing Zhu Huntang's C position. I entered the Bailong Center with one person who was obviously a bird but dressed like a sheep, and another person who was originally a sheep and wore a sheep-shaped doll suit. The receptionist couldn't help but glance at the sign that said pets are not allowed but sheep are allowed, and then shook his head. He shook his head and saw that these were just the eldest lady and her friends in doll costumes, not real sheep. Go and kill the people who bully Dongdong's mother. Xiao Tang and we stand far away to avoid being splashed with blood. Then we won't look cute. Shang Guandandan ordered Lu Chang'an and reminded Zhu Huntang that just now on the way here, Lu Chang'an had already told her the reason for coming to Bailong Center. Lu Chang'an shook off her hand, this little old lady with evil views. He never cared about being splattered with blood. You killed someone, so what happened to you when someone used some blood to drink? Recently, Lu Chang'an hummed a company and didn't mind the blood splattering everywhere. Zhu Huntang blinked at Lu Chang'an. You see, in comparison, I am a little fairy who abides by the law and is harmless to humans and animals. However, the old man always feels that something is wrong with Zhu Huntang and something is abnormal. When I arrived at the red soup spicy chicken noodle shop, I saw Go Shanhai, standing behind a tall and thin man with a very similar appearance to him. Go Shanhai raised his head slightly and looked at the man from time to time, as if he had found a spiritual support and supporter. There was some confidence in his expression that I've called for someone to come, let's see if you can do anything. When high-end shopping malls open for business, they always avoid breakfast time and are often 1.5 to 2 hours away from lunch. There are only a few customers in the store eating noodles and melon. What are you doing here? Lu Chang'an walked in and asked after looking around. Who are you? The man pursed his lips and poured a toothpick out of the white porcelain tube on the table. After asking, he stopped looking at Lu Chang'an and looked at Zhu Huntang and Shang Guandan who were walking next to Zhou Shuling. Dan body lingers. He had already seen Zhou Shuling calling for help, but he didn't expect that what came was a hairless melon egg, and two little girls invited by unknown companies to come to the event. He had seen them outside Bailong Center. The people wearing this kind of doll costumes are handing out flyers to poor people who don't make much money a day. This is my shop. You come in and ask me who I am. There were many people here, and Lu Chang'an didn't even say a word of disagreement, but he kneaded each other into a paste and put it in a clay pot. But he finally had the idea of rubbing people in his heart, which made him worry and reflect that Zhu Huntang must always annoy him, which made him feel more violent. It seems that he has to wait until Su Mei comes back to deal with Zhu Huntang. Only by watching happily by yourself can your thoughts be clear and your anger eliminated. His name is Go Nanbei, and he is Go Shanhai's father. Zhou Shuling pulled Lu Chang'an and whispered in his ear. It turns out it's Go Nanbei, not East and West. Lu Chang'an thought this name was sophisticated, interesting, and quite clever. Boy, how can you talk? Haven't your adults ever taught you to respect the elderly and love the young? Go Nanbei said angrily, looking at Lu Chang'an's expression of not taking him seriously. Shang Guandandan's eyes widened immediately, and he stared at Go Nanbei majestically, hoping that he could meet her eyes and understand how could the Empress Dowager, who was as upright and elegant as herself, not teach Lu Chang'an? Dad, he was the one who stuck my mouth with 502 glue. Seeing Lu Chang'an, old and new hatreds came to his heart, and Go Shanhai quickly complained. Especially when he saw Zhou Shuling actually approaching Lu Chang'an, her chest pressing against Lu Chang'an's arm, he was even more depressed. Go Nanbei had said that he would marry Zhou Shuling into his family as his wife. Go Shanhai inevitably regarded Zhou Shuling as his girlfriend and fiancée. Go Shanhai has been reading novels recently and has gradually accepted some ideas from other readers. It is best for a woman not to even talk face to face when facing other men. Otherwise, the two people are just communicating through words, which is no different from indirect kissing. You boy, look at the mouth that my Shanhai made. Go Nanbei rolled up his sleeves and pointed at Lu Chang'an. If you don't say anything else, if you don't pay 500,000 yuan in compensation for this matter, it won't end. Even the people who eat melons are in an uproar. In this day and age, if there is any human life incident, there is no need to pay 500,000 yuan. Everyone thinks that the lives of their relatives and friends are priceless, but sometimes if they really pay compensation, the dead person's life is worthless. Of course, if you can feed the other person, you can also get more money. Go Nanbei felt that he could at least support Zhou Shuling. Who didn't know this little girl in town? Her father was a fool who died early, and her mother was a slut who remarried. Go Nanbei and the neighbors saw her as pitiful and introduced her to work in a KTV. However, they didn't recognize a good heart and just ran away, wasting everyone's good intentions. How did you know that when she came to the city, she was actually being kept by someone? She just looked down on and disliked the men in the town, and was willing to be a slave to the city people. Can you stop people from talking about her? How about sealing your mouth, and together we can pay you 1 million, Zhu Huntang said disdainfully, habitually raising his hand to snap his fingers. Lu Chang'an held her finger, this prodigal lamb. Ha ha, little bitch, you are quite loud. Can you give me 1 million? You thought it was 100 yuan. Do you earn 100 yuan a day? Go Nanbei sneered. Shang Guandandan couldn't help but giggle, opened the thermos bottle and drank some water. Zhou Shuling's eyes widened. Did Xiao Tang get paid? She is still a student, but she is also a boss, the one who pays wages. However, I heard that it is now popular for bosses to get an annual salary of 1 yuan. Doesn't that mean that Xiao Tang's daily salary is not even 1 yuan? Because of her contact with professional elites such as Michaels and All-Star, Zhou Shuling also gained knowledge and learned about operations such as making an annual salary of 1 yuan. Capitalists can always do all kinds of tricks to fool people. Lu Chang'an let go of Zhu Huntang's hand. This is what Xiao Yang is good at, pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. No, the other party is not a tiger, and she doesn't need to pretend. He looks like a fat sheep, and fat sheep are often regarded as pig slaughter. Ha ha, Zhu Huntang imitated others' laughter. If I can show you 1 million, would you believe it if you and your son kowtowed to Boss Zhou and apologized? Okay, if you can bring it out, we will kowtow. If you can't bring it out, go away, Go Shanhai said impatiently. Since this group of people arrived, Zhou Shuling has been hiding behind others, looking like a spectator. So angry with Go Shanhai, this stupid bitch, does she know that she is the real owner who has been found? Let's do this. I take out 1 million and you kowtow once, I take out 10 million and you kowtow 10 times, I take out 100 million and you kowtow 100 times, and so on. Zhu Huntang glanced at Lu Chang'an. He stopped talking, feeling like he was leaving the matter to Zhu Huntang to handle. This is definitely a test for the air position of the Kyushu Fenglai sword section. Zhu Huntang has watched many movies and TV series, and there are such plots. The old antique who is about to enter the coffin always likes to do things when faced with the energetic heir who is waiting to be bitten. As soon as this came out, and then under the heir's witty performance, he was completely impressed. After explaining the funeral affairs, he kicked his legs and refused to rest in peace. This is how Zhu Huntang wants to impress Lu Chang'an. Of course, she doesn't want him to kick his legs. Zhu Huntang will play with him for a long, long time, hoping that he will live a long life. Ha ha ha, okay, I've seen bragging, but I've never seen anyone who can brag so much that it flies into the sky. What about 100 million yuan? Go Shanhai laughed first, knowing that Zhou Shuling was now on his lap. But looking at the size of this rice noodle shop, it is not large enough to be able to withdraw 100 million in cash. A little bit of common sense will tell you that having a net worth of over 100 million, assets over 100 million, and being able to cash out 100 million are not on the same level. Go Nanbei slapped Go Shanhai, but he didn't think that the person handing out leaflets in front of him could spend 100 million, but he just agreed because he was dissatisfied with his son's decision. Okay, but now that you've blown this, if you can't come up with the money, Zhou Shuling will have to compensate us. What if we have time to play with you? You're a real guy who has no time to talk to you. Go Nanbei sitting lazily on the table, he crossed his legs. Zhou Shuling nodded repeatedly. Lu Chang'an stopped talking and allowed Zhu Huntang to do what he wanted. Zhou Shuling had no reason not to support him. Zhu Huntang snapped his fingers. This time it was not the bread man, but Jin Xiaomei who was standing outside the store waiting for help. Jin Xiaomei has not yet gained Zhu Huntang's complete trust, so Zhu Huntang often does not take Jin Xiaomei with him when he goes out. However, as soon as Zhu Huntang returns to Beilong Center, Jin Xiaomei will rush over and stand by. How much money is in the vault upstairs? There is only 1 billion in cash in the vault in Building 1, as well as some jewelry, gold bars, and artworks. There is less cash in Building 2, but the documents and vouchers that can be used as proof of assets are basically kept in Building 2. Jin Xiaomei lowered her voice. Said, in fact, the cash is not an accurate figure, she just thinks that the reported amount is enough for Zhu Huntang to play with. It is also necessary to keep them separately. If one day some kidnappers composed of extraordinary creatures break into Building 1 of Beilong Center and pack up the Zhu family's little sheep, they will not be able to take away more belongings. It's a bit little, forget it, just think I'm showing mercy, I'm a fairy after all. After Zhu Huntang finished speaking, he frowned and thought about the problem without saying a word. Seeing Zhu Huntang's depressed look, as if he couldn't think of a way out, Go Nanbei laughed twice and stared at Zhou Shuling. He had always been the only one who cheated on others. If Zhou Shuling didn't say anything, she wouldn't be able to open her shop. 1 billion, how many kowtows will he have to make? Zhu Huntang calculated over and over again and decided that it was 1,000, which felt a bit small. He wondered if others could calculate more. 100 million, Shang Guandandan concluded. 1,000, right, Zhou Shuling once confidently said that she could do Zhou Dongdong's homework. How could she be a person without confidence? Just hold the computer and mutter 100, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, billion, 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 or something like that, and it'll be over soon. We put 1 billion in the vault, open the door and close it again, let them see the billion, then open the door and close it again, let them see it again. This cycle will soon make them knock 100 million. It's time to ring. The Queen Mother was only 50 cents away from the beard and could recalculate it 3 times, so she naturally had her own shrewd calculations. Lu Chang'an nodded. He was worthy of being the founder of the vending machine flow management method. It made sense. Can you guys get down to business? Go Nanbei was furious. The man was cowering and obviously didn't want to care about the matter anymore. The remaining women spoke in a mess, as if they were crazy. At first glance, they were not. He who can do things is wasting his time. Let's go. Zhu Huntang held Shang Guandandan's hand and walked to his own private elevator first. Go Nanbei and Go Shanhai stood still. Let's go, Lu Chang'an is no longer a bystander at this time. Zhu Huntang personally handles the daily affairs involving the finances of the Zhu Fenglai Jianmen. It's not like he, the sect leader, can't make a temporary cameo to help. As soon as he pushed Go Nanbei and Go Shanhai, the father and son felt that their feet were not his own, so they trotted for a long distance and even rushed in front of Zhu Huntang before they stabilized their bodies. Zhou Shuling did not follow to watch the excitement. She had been carefully paying attention to a customer in the corner. That person looked a bit like someone who had eaten bawang meal before. She had to keep an eye on him carefully today. Go Nanbei and Go Shanhai took the elevator to the top floor. They walked out of the elevator car and walked forward. They found that those who were dressed in particularly exquisite clothes were all bowing to those who were wearing dull clothes and handing out flyers. They gradually felt that something was wrong. Ha, this battle is quite big. Go Nanbei felt guilty. In today's society, there are many poor people and many rich people. He originally thought that this was a flyer, so he naturally felt that he couldn't afford 1 million. But in fact, there are really not many people who can take out 100 million in cash, but those who can take out 1 million in cash, even Go Nanbei knows a few such friends. Whether people recognize him as a friend or not is another matter. Look at how high this corridor is. 1 million? There may not even be a few pieces of glass, but these large area high-rise glass curtain walls are either products from Seal or North Glass, or they may even be more impressive high-tech customized products. Go Nanbei has done high-altitude cleaning work before and has a little understanding of glass products. To do high-altitude cleaning, you first need to be brave, but now Go Nanbei feels a little weak in his legs. The person he is blackmailing this time is a bit richer than he knew. In fact, a little money is nothing. In many cases, it is just a more suitable target for blackmail. Once a person has a little money, it is easy to develop the habit of being timid and afraid of getting into trouble. He will feel that he is already wearing shoes and cannot argue with barefoot people. Spending money to eliminate disasters, but if you have as much money as you have now, it is not suitable for blackmail, at least it is not suitable for ordinary people to blackmail. Soon she arrived in front of the vault. The door of this vault was actually not as sophisticated as the vault door that Zhu Huntang had given her on her skirt. Zhu Huntang entered the password, and Lu Chang'an turned around. He just wanted to help prevent others from prying into the password, not because he thought he would be angry if he saw her password. Look, this is 1 billion. You can count it slowly. After counting, remember to kowtow at the door of Boss Joe's store to admit your mistake. I will use a counting instrument to help you record the number of kowtows. Am I considerate? Zhu Huntang pointed casually. There were more than 10 cubic meters of banknotes piled together in the warehouse, and there was a small pile in another corner. She didn't know what the use of so much cash was. On TV, we have seen gangsters and corruption plots showing hundreds of millions of dollars piled up, but is it the same as seeing it with our own eyes in reality? Go Nanbei felt his heart beating like thunder, his legs felt weak, and he even felt a little dizzy. He staggered and knelt down in front of the pile of banknotes. Go Shanhai suddenly burst into laughter, rushed up to grab an armful of banknotes, turned around, and wanted to run away with the money. I'm crazy, no one stopped him. As soon as he ran out of the house, it could be considered a burglary. The amount was quite large, not bad. Go Nanbei reacted at this time, knowing that his son would be ruined if he really ran away with the money, so he hurriedly chased after Go Shanhai on his hands and knees, hugging Go Shanhai and pressing him to the ground. Let me go. I'm mad, Go Shanhai struggled desperately. Go Nanbei had no choice but to punch Go Shanhai in the face. Go Shanhai was in severe pain before he woke up from his daze. Go Nanbei gasped, his heart felt chilly, and a chill came up on his back. No one from the other party came to stop Go Shanhai just now. He was trying to destroy people. These rich people are really bad to the core. I'm sorry, Let's kowtow now. The situation was stronger than the others. Go Nanbei felt flustered and physically weak, and he held down Go Shanhai, who was lying on the ground. Kowtowing 1,000 times is no different from torture, but if they don't kowtow 1,000 times, the other party may know how to torture the father and son to death. Kowtowing is a trivial matter. Go Shanhai promised me before that he would be responsible for clearing up the influence of rumors he spread in his hometown. Do you understand? Lu Chang'an said coldly. Definitely, we will definitely, Go Shanhai gritted his teeth. The father and his son kowtowed 1,000 times in front of Zhou Shuling's store to admit their mistake. When the news spread back to their hometown, the father and son could no longer behave themselves, but no one would pay attention to what they had done to Zhou Shuling anymore. Those rumors. The big chapters helped the new book to be collected. You don't need to read it, it's good to just collect it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 990. The bread man escorting Go Nanbei and his son to kowtow will definitely attract the attention of many melon-eating people. If someone deliberately spreads the news, it is possible to attract public attention. Bailong Center is not without competitors. Large commercial plazas have sprung up in Juncha in recent years. However, as a second-tier city, high-end consumption capacity is limited. Many people are happy to see Bailong Center get more negative news. Zhu Huntang asked Jin Xiaomei to prepare a public relations copy using the Bailong Center's certified media account, taking into account the mainland people's pursuit of fairness and moral character, and explaining the problem realistically. Although there are some troubles, no one can bully the Saint Mother of Zhu Fenglai sword sect and escape unscathed. If Jin Xiaomei does this well, the media and public relations work of Zhu Fenglai Jianmen can be outsourced to her in the future. Adding many departments to the Zhu Fenglai sword sect that are in line with modern society is one of the very urgent reforms that Zhu Huntang needs to make after he prepares to officially succeed the sect leader. Although the bad old man is powerful, the structure of his department is haphazard and loose, which is not suitable for the personnel management needs of development and growth. After Zhongqing handed over some of Zhu Huntang's social accounts to Jin Xiaomei for management, Zhu Huntang is quite satisfied so far. In particular, Jin Xiaomei understands Zhu Huntang's aesthetics and is better at retouching pictures. Zhongqing is not as good as Zhu Huntang in this regard. He often needs Zhu Huntang's guidance to ensure that the pictures sent out are perfect. Bai Hui is actually the one who understands Zhu Huntang's aesthetics best, but Bai Hui prefers to be Zhu Huntang's friend rather than his assistant. Bai Hui spends all day editing and nuance pictures and playing a role-playing game of a female supporting role in which she is moved and abused by herself. I don't have time to help Zhu Huntang edit the pictures. I like you, and I'm even willing to help you make your girlfriend's photos look beautiful. How about that? Are you impressed? But while she was playing this tragic female supporting role-playing game, she was waving her little hoe very fast, showing a kind of teasing, bitchy and witty character, which Zhu Huntang admired very much. How did I handle it today? Zhu Huntang helped Shang Guandandan put the thermos bottle under his arm, and led the Queen Mother to Lu Chang'an to claim credit. Lu Chang'an nodded. He likes to rub people recently. This method is not suitable for common use, especially Go Dongzi and Go Yinzhou and his son. Although they are very disgusting, they are only ordinary people after all. Rubbing people to death casually can easily cause social panic. It is consistent with many elements of socialist core values. For example, when Lu Chang'an killed the food tyrant of Fui Vegetable Company, there was no big disturbance and it was very harmonious. For the sake of social stability and the need to solve crimes, the police do not want this matter to spread and want to block the news, but this is basically impossible. It's hard to hide the death of a person without making a splash, especially a murder like this involving an entire company. Many vendors in the vegetable market first discovered that there was no one to manage quotas or collect various management fees. Then they couldn't even contact people from the vegetable company, and they gradually knew that something was wrong. Everyone liked it, so not only did it not cause any panic, but it made people feel like justice was coming from heaven and they applauded. When someone came to the wet market to investigate for clues, no one cooperated. No matter what the reason was, the vendors inevitably had some thoughts: they were being tyrannical, and you didn't come to investigate when they bullied the market. Instead, they were punished, so you came to investigate. The vegetable market is operating as usual, and no vegetable companies from other places have taken the opportunity to seize the market. Similar vegetable companies in the entire county are panicking, fearing that it will be their turn. Lu Chang'an's life was naturally not affected. Anyway, it was the Turan who worked in the vegetable company, not Lu Chang'an. Not bad, Lu Chang'an nodded. Zhu Huntang immediately stood up and walked up and down in front of Lu Chang'an, hoping that he would take a new look at her and realize that she should abdicate as soon as possible. Lu Chang'an looked at her. Zhu Huntang was like a little hen that had just laid eggs, waving her wings, pointing at her little eggs and clucking, as if she was the only one in the world who could lay eggs. How amazing it was. Dan, I know a lot about the history before the Qin and Han dynasties, but I generally pay more attention to the situation of national wars, outstanding figures, literature and art, etc. I don't pay much attention to some major national events, such as the Qin dynasty, the establishment of the crown prince in the Han dynasty, etc. When will things like this be done? Zhu Huntang asked Shang Guandandan calmly. Because of her outstanding performance, Lu Chang'an had been alerted. He would not give up the position under his butt so easily. Therefore, Zhu Huntang had to be careful when he wanted to realize his ambition. Be cautious and reserved. I'm familiar with this. I've established 2 princes, both of whom had vacancies in the throne. They were appointed as princes before they were temporarily brought in to be the emperor. Shang Guandandan didn't think this was a big event. Compared with deposing and establishing the emperor, the prince, this level is nothing. It turns out that as long as there is a vacancy, there will be a prince, and he will be able to ascend the throne immediately without waiting for too long. Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang with his head lowered and his eyes rolling, and he couldn't help but shook his head. If it were true that in ancient times, people who prepared to usurp the throne were so blatant, even their own children would have been killed by the reigning emperor. There are many stories of the prince killing me if he wants to become emperor as soon as possible, and killing the prince if I want to be emperor for a few more years. Lu Chang'an didn't think that Zhu Huntang wanted to kill him. The most she would do was to turn into a sheep and humiliate him, or unite a group of pregnant women, birds, children, etc. who had no fighting ability to become the leader of the sect. Compared to your experience and knowledge reserves of other dynasties, you are right to say that you know more about the history before Qin and Han dynasties. Zhu Huntang has very few things that can be praised, and Lu Chang'an will not always do it. All tried to attack her. His words are also well-founded. Zhu Huntang at least knows who the 4 princes of the Warring States period are. Many people often laugh at Zhu Huntang but at the same time have self-doubt. I can't even tell who the 4 princes of the Warring States period are. She was able to know about the 4 young masters of the Warring States period because she had read the phonetic version of Zizi Tongjian, the kind with pictures and translations. But for people like Lu Sun and Zhou Shuren, she might not know that they were the same person. According to her usual habit of combining knowledge, it would be possible for her to remember Lu Sun and Zhou Shuren as Zhou Sun, and then come to Lu Chang'an excitedly and say that she finally knew that the Aq he mentioned was actually a character in a novel written by Zhou Sun, and she even played the role herself. Aq. Ha ha ha, it is difficult to admit that others are excellent, but it is often very simple to admit that I am excellent. After all, I can always make people become XINU members and make people live a life with high mountains and endless sky. Sentimental Zhu Huntang laughed loudly, and even the bad old man who had experienced the Qin and Han dynasties admitted that she was an expert on the history of the Qin and Han dynasties. Then Xiao Tang, can you make me a Xinyu member? Shang Guandandan said enviously. When she was playing games, she often saw the privileges of Xinyu members, and she could receive many gift packs. But Shang Guandandan is not even an ordinary QQ member. The Queen Mother, who is diligent and frugal and strives to live a smart life, never charges for playing games. This is not like reading novels. Reading novels does not charge for money. Those poor authors want to do surgery to regenerate Chi is also not expensive. No problem, I asked Jin Xiaomei to help you recharge Q coins. My mother often met penguins in Antarctica and asked her if she wanted to recharge Q coins. She recharged a lot and became an Antarctic accepted by the penguins. Zhu Huntang. I also heard Lu Chang'an talk about a person named Aq, who must have charged a lot of Q coins. Shang Guandandan nodded expectantly. After she becomes a Xinyu member, she will download all the games that can receive gift packs. She will collect gift packs every day and accumulate more and more game assets over time. Her own game industry is getting bigger and bigger. Wait, I think what you are saying is that you can always make people sincerely convinced by you, rather than making people become Xinyu members. Lu Chang'an listened to their jumping conversation and couldn't help but feel that none of them were normal people. Otherwise, how could we have such a conversation that is difficult for ordinary people to understand and follow? You also want to be a member of Xinyu? No problem. Zhu Huntang knew very well that before he controlled the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect, he could only be a fat sheep that was allowed to be slaughtered. Lu Chang'an left. Zhu Huntang followed him. There were still classes to attend today, so Zhu Huntang had to follow him to school. This was currently the most important event after inheriting the throne. Hey, there is nothing that can be done about it. Ever since he discovered last night that Yan Qingcheng was a hoe and a digger, Zhu Huntang has been alert and cannot give Yan Qingcheng and Lu Chang'an too many opportunities to be alone together. Going to school is such a painful thing. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an only forced her to go to school and did not force Ping Ping to attend classes, so Zhu Huntang was still able to persevere. If she didn't go to school and intervened on her own, Yan Qingcheng's efficiency would be greatly increased. Over time, she might become an informed and knowledgeable little girlfriend in front of Lu Chang'an, and a gentle and warm-hearted girl in front of Lu Jianxi. In the situation of the younger daughter, Zhu Huntang would lose all her advantages. Who can resist Yan Qingcheng, a T with 2 statuses and identities? She was also able to follow Lu Chang'an's change of identity and change her identity. She even said sweetly in front of Professor Lu Jianxi that I am your son's little girlfriend. Professor Lu Jianxi has a father-daughter relationship. You should treat me well like your sister, but you must pay attention to brother-sister ethics and keep an appropriate distance. Oh my God, it's so invincible. Thinking of this, the sheep's ears on Zhu Huntang's head trembled as if they were flying with her, and she quickly ran up to hold Lu Chang'an's arm. Shang Guandandan never worried about these things. She was the master of the harem and her position was stable. She looked around at the international luxury brands on the first floor of the shopping mall that the Queen Mother could not afford. Then when she walked through a roadshow, a young man in a suit. The man stopped her and said, "Where are you going? Come on, go to the street at exit E to hand out flyers. Remember not to hand them out in the shopping mall. You will be fined." After speaking, the young man took 2 stacks of flyers and handed them to her. Shang Guandandan knew that there was money to be made by distributing leaflets, so he didn't intend to refuse. He saw a group of little sheep in doll costumes gathering and walking out to hand out leaflets, so he got in. This month is almost over, all kinds of requests, PLGMMP. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 991. Lu Chang'an went to the Red Soup Spicy Rooster Noodle shop for a while. Go Dongzi and Go Shanhai kowtowed until their heads were broken and bloody, and they kowtowed 1,000 times before being driven away by Zhou Shuling. She took a mop and cleaned up the place where they had just kowtowed, then she smiled sheepishly at the onlookers and returned to the store. In fact, as long as these two people stop bothering her, Zhou Shuling won't be so angry anymore. She is stubborn and persistent, but has a soft heart. If the other person learns a lesson, or she thinks of some happy things and relieves herself, she can recover quickly. Positive attitude. This is also a skill she learned in her previous life. Life was so difficult, and she still had children to take care of. Without the ability to adjust her mentality in this way, it would only add more grievances and suffering, create resentment and unsustainable emotions, and it would not help. Zhou Shuling's solution to the problems she encounters now is very simple. Ask Lu Chang'an. Anyway, the method he comes up with will definitely not harm her, except when he teases her. If Lu Chang'an was dealing with something and Zhou Shuling couldn't understand his operation, she wouldn't think too much about it. He wouldn't harm her anyway, so she could just follow his orders. The beautiful young woman was used to obeying orders when she asked for them. Highly corporate. I don't know if it's because of the kowtow show just now, but there were so many people watching. It's not yet the peak meal period, so the business in the store is busier than usual. Neither Lu Chang'an nor Zhu Huntang are people who know how to help in the store. I will not get in the way here and leave. I'm cooking at noon, can you lend me your kitchen? Lu Chang'an asked for the opinion of the fat sheep under the Fenglai Jianmen of Zhuzhu. Hey, Zhu Huntang shouted in agreement. So Lu Chang'an walked to the supermarket, and Zhu Huntang followed closely behind him. Fortunately, Yan Qingcheng had left Beilong Center. Otherwise, it would have been very possible for Yan Qing to start a new business today, just like he did in Qin Yanan's kitchen yesterday. The orange opportunity is a hoe and a double dig. Yan Qingcheng had such a great time digging yesterday that Zhu Huntang felt a little heartbroken. It was like when he was playing a game and saw the opponent's progress bar rising sharply, while his own progress bar did not advance but retreated. He was so anxious. I want to rush over to grab the controller, unplug the power, and smash the screen. Fortunately, the two people with the surname Yan have been sent away today, and my mother also got the chance to return through her own efforts. When her mother returns to Junxia, although she will suffer a heavy blow, she will still stand tenaciously with her mother to seize the Kyushu Fenglai Sword Gate and see whose family Junxia will rule the world in the future. Ha ha ha, Zhu Huntang couldn't help but laugh with satisfaction. Lu Chang'an looked back at her and had some questions, but thought it was better not to ask, so he continued walking forward and picked up a slightly larger shopping cart. Zhu Huntang moved lightly, grabbed the edge of the shopping cart, raised his legs and turned over, climbed into the shopping cart very quickly and sat down. Lu Chang'an changed his car. Damn old man. Look at other people's children sitting in shopping carts. Zhu Huntang crossed his arms in front of his chest angrily. Are you a child? I am a little sheep, and a little sheep has a small character just like a child, so the treatment is the same, Zhu Huntang argued with reason. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and borrowed someone else's kitchen. The size was a matter of personal preference. It was okay to push her around and play with her. This was indeed a child. Zhu was 3 years old. So Lu Chang'an put down the shopping cart in his hand and pushed the one Zhu Huntang was sitting on towards the supermarket. This supermarket seems to want to show off its details and quality, and does not prevent this uncivilized phenomenon. It only has waiters to remind people to pay attention to safety. Zhu Huntang was sitting proudly in the shopping cart. She recalled how she had just returned to Junxia after the New Year, when she was sitting in the car and Lu Chang'an was riding a courtesy motorcycle in front to help her clear the way. She felt more majestic now. When we came to the fruit and vegetable area, there was a child sitting in a shopping cart next to her. The child looked at Zhu Huntang strangely. Why was she still sitting in the shopping cart when she was so old and being pushed by others? Kids, this is the only shopping cart with adults in it. Zhu Huntang stared back without hesitation. I also have a father pushing me. Do you think you are the only children who have a father to play with? Zhu Huntang clenched his fists and made up his mind that he could only have this kind of treatment, and he must not let Yan Qingcheng sit in the shopping cart and be pushed by Lu Chang'an. Of course, if it is a legitimate dragon spirit potfly like an Nuan or a juvenile dragon spirit potfly like Bai Hui who wants to sit in a shopping cart and be pushed by him, Zhu Huntang can still accept it. Zhou Dongdong, Dandan, Lu Qianqian and the like can do it, but Yan Qingcheng, a double-digging ho god, can't. Can an Nuan sit down? The legs must be crossed like a bodhisattva, or hung outside. As for Qinyanan, it would be a bit ugly to sit in. After all, her big butt is roughly checkered, like a female sumo wrestler. If she barely squeezes it in, it must look like a threesome. A fat girl who weighs 100 pounds wants to wear size S. The reason why Zhu Huntang slanders Qinyanan so much is of course because he called her last night and asked her to come back to stay with the little sheep baby who needed sex to sleep, but she refused. Qinyanan behaved suspiciously after she came back this morning. Could it be that she finally got nutrition? How great! Zhu Huntang sighed. Wasn't Qinyanan doing this just for Lu Changchang? In order to let her child get more nutrition, Qinyanan really worked hard, painstakingly, and vomited blood just like Zhujiang who supported Xiao Lu. Still can't compare Qinyanan to Zhujiang. Zhujiang's end was not very good. He was shot into a hedgehog by Zhou Yu's straw boat and was killed by Zhao Zilong. It's better to compare Qinyanan to Shangguan Dandan. Dandan was the same. I was worried about Lu Chang'an. Let's have roast beef bones for lunch today, Lu Chang'an said to Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang snapped his fingers. A bread man ran over. Go buy a cow. Zhu Huntang has rich and extensive knowledge and knows that this kind of boutique supermarket generally does not have many cows waiting for customers to choose. She was thoughtful. Since it was Lu Chang'an who did the cooking, he liked to cook large dishes and large portions. One cow's bones could be eaten by many people. Don't, Lu Chang'an called to the bread man and pointed to the cold food counter. There are beef leg bones here, and beef ribs are much cheaper. The beef leg bones are very large and can be used as dumbbells for fitness. The bread man quickly pushed another shopping cart over, because the third lady would never get out of the shopping cart pushed by Lu Chang'an. If the bones were placed in that shopping cart, wouldn't it disgust the third lady and affect her riding experience? So in the supermarket, Lu Chang'an pushed Zhu Huntang and the bread man pushed the shopping cart. Lu Chang'an thought that it was this group of meticulous and considerate bread men who were as considerate as the roundworm babies in her belly that raised her. I feel like I should have everything I want to achieve and everything I say should come true. I bought beef bones and some side dishes in the supermarket, so I don't need to buy anything else. Zhu Huntang's kitchen is fully stocked. Except for things she doesn't like to eat, no matter how rare and fresh things are, they may appear in her kitchen. Qinyanan often asked Lu Chang'an to go to Lushan Mountain for dinner because she got all kinds of delicious things from Zhu Huntang, and then asked Lu Chang'an to share them, so that the brother and sister could get close to each other. After pushing the shopping cart into the kitchen on the top floor, Zhu Huntang still sat inside and refused to come out. Lu Chang'an didn't care about her. The ingredients were all placed in another shopping cart anyway. He didn't need many people to help him, so he asked the group of chefs and staff on standby in the kitchen to leave, and he began to wander around to observe and familiarize himself with this unparalleled super-large personal kitchen. The last time Lu Chang'an came to see Zhu Huntang, who designed aircraft spray painting, he found that she had a studio and an exhibition hall. Lu Chang'an felt that he was still not familiar with this place even though he had been there many times. Today, the large kitchen allowed him to gain more knowledge. With the industrialization, with the rapid development of science and technology, the achievements of material civilization that ordinary people can enjoy have surpassed many so-called emperors' treatment in ancient times. The fresh aquatic products kept in the kitchen are like an aquarium, or more complete than those in the seafood market. After walking around in a circle and playing with the kitchen table, refrigerator, and cutlery for a while, Lu Chang'an took a knife to first remove the remaining meat from the beef bone, and then used an electric saw to carefully cut the vertical section of the beef bone in a circle. Then use a hand saw to cut open completely. This can prevent the high-speed rotation of the chainsaw from smashing the bone marrow and splattering it. The big beef bones were sawed into two sides, and they were full of pink marrow juice. After sawing all the big bones, Lu Chang'an wrapped them in tin foil and put them on the grill to heat. "Grandpa, I'm already a little hungry," Zhu Huntang said delicately. "It will be fine soon. You can eat something to fill your stomach first." Lu Chang'an turned around and found that she was still sitting in the shopping cart, her arms hanging outside the shopping cart, holding a mobile phone that seemed to be taking selfies or something. "It's over, there's nothing to do. That cabinet is full of fruits. Give me an apple to eat, not the purple one. That's for juice. The black one is delicious." Zhu Huntang pointed to the cabinet. Lu Chang'an stood and looked at her for 10 seconds, then walked over to help her get it. He originally wanted to ask her to get out of the shopping cart and get it himself, but thinking about it, if she got out of the shopping cart, she would have to come and give it to him, strike a blow. Forget it, it was better for her to stay in the shopping cart. Lu Chang'an went to get apples for her to eat, and 2 more bananas the size of Nongda sausages for her to eat. The most time-consuming part of roasting beef bones is sawing the bones. Using a chainsaw and Lu Chang'an's super control of the hand saw naturally saves a lot of time. After the beef bones wrapped in tin foil are roasted, Lu Chang'an tears off the tin foil and cuts the bones. Put it on the grill, then mince the newly boned beef and sprinkle it on the bone marrow, and then apply the sauce. The sauce is delicious and fragrant, the beef marrow is oily and tender, and the aroma is fragrant. The boneless beef that has absorbed the marrow is the essence of it. It is full of juice in the mouth and makes you want to swallow it on your tongue. Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang had a full meal, and Zhu Huntang also understood that Zhou Dongdong's shape was not natural, but was fed by the bad old man. Sooner or later, he will be in the shape of Zhou Dongdong. Zhu Huntang touched his belly and closed his eyes happily, feeling happy. Lu Chang'an didn't finish eating them all, so he gave 2 sides to Zhou Shuling. He put the rest in a food box and planned to take it back to Shangguan Dandan and Zhou Dongdong to keep. He and Zhu Huntang, who had changed their clothes, walked out of the mall and saw Shangguan Dandan sitting on a stone pier by the street, holding her beloved thermos bottle in her hand and slowly drinking water. There was a thick stack of flyers placed on the ground more than 1 meter away from her. Every time someone passed by, she would open her eyes wide, hoping to make eye contact with others, and hope that they would understand what she meant in her eyes. Get a flyer to help her do her job. It was the first time that Lu Chang'an saw someone handing out leaflets like this. Working with eyes. The new book will be on the shelves tomorrow, and we will do a lot of publicity. Thank you for your support. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 992. Seeing Shangguan Dandan working, Zhu Huntang wanted to join in the fun, but Lu Chang'an obviously didn't want to disturb the Queen Mother's elegance, so he grabbed Zhu Huntang's neck and carried her away. "Damn old man, one day I want you to be my mount and ride on you to dominate you," Zhu Huntang said very fiercely. "I swear, ah." Lu Chang'an and Zhou Shuling often carried Zhou Dongdong back like this when he was about to play lawlessly but didn't want to study or do his homework. Zhu Huntang looked on with sympathy and fun, but if it really happened to him, he wouldn't be surprised at all. Fun and interesting, leaving only yourself to pity yourself. Lu Chang'an must have suspected that she would take the opportunity to play with Shangguan Dandan and then skip class, so he treated her like this. Little did he know that Zhu Huntang would go to class to prevent being cheated. Stupid Lu Chang'an. If you always talk about your ambition before it is realized, your ambition will become a joke. Lu Chang'an didn't care and said something philosophical. I want to write the sentence down. When someone asks me for a promotion or salary increase, I will say the sentence Zhu Huntang was inspired. When you are beaten, don't ask me for help. Lu Chang'an shook his head. She is obviously such a person, but she does a good job at winning people's hearts and making others work for her. These bread people are well trained by her, and they are better than the attendants in the palace before. Know how to be considerate and understand the higher meaning. Zhu Huntang often snaps her fingers suddenly, and even the people talking and doing things with her don't know what she means. Her bread man will understand, appear in time and deliver what she wants. This is much worse than Shang Guandandan. Shang Guandandan often tries to make eye contact with others, but once they meet their eyes, no one usually knows what she wants to do. If her little boy is better than her, that means he is better than her. Lu Chang'an once again proved this fact. He couldn't help but nodded and looked at Zhu Huntang a little more pleasantly, but he still couldn't help when she was beaten. This is the simplest, most basic, and simplest educational concept. If children are fighting and adults go to help regardless of anything, how can we educate good children? Ha ha ha, who dares to hit me? Looking at the entire county, even Qin Yanan is afraid that I will deal with her arrogance, so she has to humiliate herself and kneel under my diaper. She didn't see yesterday after I put on the diaper, Qin Yanan just knelt on the floor and watched me go find you, Zhu Huntang said contemptuously. Lu Chang'an did not see it, but he did not intend to beat her up, so that she could recall countless similar scenes, so that she could clearly realize that not only did someone dare to beat her, but they had also beaten her countless times. You don't count, Zhu Huntang added. Why don't I count? It doesn't count if it doesn't count. Zhu Huntang held his head high. After all, he was just a stepfather. Zhu Huntang wanted to say that a father spanking his own child does not count as a spanking. She was a little embarrassed. After all, she was a reserved and proud young lady. Lu Chang'an took her back to the community. He went to get his books and school bag. Zhu Huntang was scanning the code to shop downstairs. Dandan must have been very happy when he suddenly received the account information from her vending machine while working. Zhu Huntang, the eldest lady, is such a gentle and positive person who can bring happiness to everyone. How about you turn into a sheep and I lead you to the Orange Garden community, Lu Chang'an said to Zhu Huntang after going downstairs. No, Zhu Huntang firmly disagreed, I am a delicate and expensive Biba. Didn't you see that Dan Dan has already canonized me as the Biba princess of the colorful glazed pure white fairyland? How could I have traveled as far as the Long March? Princess. I have the characteristics of feudal society and capitalist society. I have to be separated from the masses of the people and cannot walk. Last time at Nanshan Ranch, didn't you say that you were working as a laborer? Lu Chang'an said with a straight face. He was talking nonsense, and his ability to ramble was not like anyone else's. It was not like Lu Chang'an's usual rational speech. They all talk about the high road to others, draw lessons from other sources, and stand as a benchmark for a fair, ethical society. Haha, I succumbed to your power last time. For a bourgeois lady like me, of course, I used a posture of submission under your violent suppression to make you careless, but I will rebel as soon as I get the chance. Zhu Huntang said matter-of-factly, come on, praise me for my wit. Lu Chang'an gave her a slap in the face, but didn't insist on letting her walk. He was too lazy to chat with her here and there, so he walked out of the community and drove to Orange Garden community in her red car with the red flag flying. Zhu Huntang still hasn't taken down the red flag. Who told her that she is from Taiwan? The more high profile she is, the more word of mouth and reputation she will gain. Did you pronounce paralysis as Nibi on purpose? Lu Chang'an looked at Zhu Huntang suspiciously. No, it's more careless. Isn't that how you pronounce it? Zhu Huntang's eyes widened. He didn't learn Pinyin from a young age, so his pronunciation was often inaccurate, and he often learned various accents and was confused. It's normal for such problems to occur. Paralysis. Moby. To be careless, numb the second time and paralyze the fourth time. Moby, you are careless. Lu Chang'an remembered that Zhu Huntang had said the word CJ13 to him many times, and immediately knew that she had definitely done it on purpose. He pushed her down in the corner of the back seat of the car and beat her. This car has a lot of space and is very stable, which is perfect for beating her with free hands and feet. When the car arrived at the Juyuan community, Zhu Huntang was still crying. He couldn't help but sympathize with Zhou Dongdong with some melancholy. He had not stayed in Juncha for long, and he already felt dark. He was often abused by his cruel stepfather. Zhou Dongdong followed the old man for several times. It's been years since I thought about it, and it's been a hellish life. In the future, Lu Hanqin may be the only one who will not be beaten. After all, he is his biological son. In short, he must get the Kyushu Fenglai sword sect in his hands before Lu Hanqin is born, otherwise he may not be able to compete. Today it was An Nuan who opened the door again. She was no longer surprised when she saw Lu Chang'an bringing Zhu Huntang. Judging from her mother's feedback, teaching Zhu Huntang seemed to be a very enjoyable and happy thing. Even Aunt Ling praised Zhu Huntang. She is an elegant and wealthy young lady. But now that An Nuan saw Zhu Huntang's sulky look, she still felt that she was a sulking child brought by adults to visit and no one was playing with her. Miss Zuda, my mother said that she will give you a 1-hour lecture before class this afternoon. Will the class be held at my house? And Nuan stepped back and let the two of them in. Zhu Huntang sniffed and nodded. When he saw Lu Chang'an bending down to put on his shoes, he raised his leg and wanted to kick him sneakily. This doesn't seem to work, he may not be able to wrestle, but Zhu Huntang is likely to be beaten in front of the two stepmothers. Two people? Haha, Zhu Huntang teased him like this, causing chaos in his family relationships and causing him to lose his moral high ground. He suddenly felt a little victorious and felt a little better. And Nuan noticed that Zhu Huntang was staring at Lu Chang'an's butt, with a glimmer of desire in his eyes. He smiled and slapped Lu Chang'an's butt. Do you want to spank him? I want to kick him, Zhu Huntang admitted. Lu Chang'an put on his slippers and turned to glare at the two of them. And Nuan chuckled. There was no problem in patting him, but kicking him wouldn't work. This is a national treasure's butt. And Nuan used to be told that he was a bit proud of his little volleyball team. Later, when the two of them had a big volleyball fight, they realized that he had been keeping a low profile. Couples don't always fall asleep hugging each other, they often fall asleep and the two of them are back to back. Not much explanation. I have no class this afternoon. How about I go to class with you later? And Nuan hugged Lu Chang'an's arm and shook it. Okay, Zhu Huntang agreed. Lu Chang'an glanced at her. Were they asking her? However, Zhu Huntang had always been indifferent, and he didn't bother to pay attention to her. He just held An Nuan's hand and nodded. An Nuan has been paying attention to Zhu Huntang recently, so she searched on social media and found that someone was a CP fan of Zhu Huntang and Lu Chang'an. This is hard for An Nuan to accept. Is there something wrong with the minds of these CP fans? Some photos of Lu Chang'an teaching Zhu Huntang, do they actually think they are very loving? Girls' minds are sensitive and delicate. For example, An Nuan is wary of Qin Yanan and Bai Hui, because she knows that if she is not vigilant, these two people may cause trouble. She has also observed Zhu Huntang and Lu Chang'an. There is no ambiguity like a couple in the room. Zhu Huntang looks just like the youngest and naughtiest sister in Lu Chang'an's family who still likes to stick to her elder brother even though she is often beaten. But now there is actually a group of unrelated people kowtowing to the CP of Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang. Why are you kowtowing? Go ahead and kowtow. and Nuan must appear together with Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang to make these CP fans realize the reality. You don't want to talk about serious CPS, but specialize in Grandma Kyung's favorite style of CPS, right? If you have any questions, come and vote for me. There will be an update tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 993. Zhu Huntang glanced at An Nuan thoughtfully. The old man's little girlfriend's motives today were obviously not pure. Women are all born actors, good at making the emotions they express completely different from their true hearts. Just like the An Nuan in front of her tilted her head slightly, her expression was innocent, she had the look of a young girl, and even the light in her eyes was so pure and transparent, but the slightly raised corners of her mouth and then quickly converged betrayed her heart. Nothing can be hidden from the incomparable wit. Most people are like this. She needs to achieve the first goal first, and then there will be an emotional jump or change when she can achieve the second goal. Take An Nuan in front of her as an example. Her first goal is to accompany Lu Chang'an to class today and realize the daily date between the young lovers. She will be slightly satisfied with the corner of her mouth. If her second goal is to do something shy with Lu Chang'an after class, she will look forward to it even more and her smile will be fuller. This is an emotional jump. But if her second goal has nothing to do with dating, sweetness and happiness, and is filled with another kind of revenge, vigilance, or conspiracy, her emotions will change involuntarily, and the curvature of the corners of her mouth will disappear. The light in her eyes is probably the kind of artificial expression that women in harem dramas often express. Zhu Huntang has a sense of crisis when it comes to Yan Qingchen's hoeing and poaching. Why doesn't An Nuan have a sense of crisis? Women spend their entire lives pursuing a sense of security, guarding it, and looking for cracks in their security fortress. An Nuan may not necessarily be targeting Yan Qingchen, and may not be aware of the Ho god Yan Qingchen, but following him to class today must have the meaning of declaring sovereignty. Otherwise, if she just wanted to hang out with Lu Chang'an, she could have chosen to make such a request when Lu Chang'an came to her home alone, instead of making the request when there was Zhu Huntang, a cute and beautiful bleeding light bulb, on the way to school. Such a request, the old man and his girlfriend have already passed the stage where they wanted to urinate the same color in the early stages of their relationship and cooperated to urinate into a heart shape. They are no longer sticky all the time or desperate. Today, An Nuan can be used to hit Yan Qingchen and let her know that it is not so easy to hoe and dig at the same time. Even Zhu Huntang only knows how to dig alone, she still wants to dig in too. Being a little girlfriend, and what do you want to be? How can there be such a good thing in the world? You have to know that even if your idea is invincible, whether it can be realized is another matter. He, Zhu Huntang thought calmly. Miss, are you thinking about skipping class again? And Nuan saw Zhu Huntang standing there with her eyes rolling around, fearing that others wouldn't know that she was thinking of doing something bad. No, I'm thinking about the energy crisis that humans will face in the future and how to deal with the social tearing caused by animals that resist sanctions. Zhu Huntang replied calmly, a think tank forum will be held in Juncha recently. My original plan was to let this the theme of the think tank forum is how to resist superhuman atrocities, but my mother will go back to Juncha and may not allow this theme to pass, so I have to think of a way. Ah, Zhu Huntang's narrative content was completely beyond ordinary human contact, making An Nuan realize that she was indeed a fairy and did not belong to the world of ordinary humans. An Nuan knew that Zhu Huntang, like many girls, liked to call herself a fairy, but Zhu Huntang gave people the impression that she called herself a fairy, not that she was cute or beautiful, but that she belonged to the category of fairy species or high-ranking beings. 3 Zhuliangs can also defeat Zhu Huntang. My strength is sometimes poor. Even I can't solve some problems completely by myself. I need a wise man of Zhujiang's level to help me resist Lu Chang'an's suppression and suppression of me. Insult. Zhu Huntang lowered his voice, this is a conspiracy, don't reveal it to Lu Chang'an for the time being. In fact, properly revealing some conspiracies to friends who are still in the development stage can enhance friendship. This is Zhu Huntang's experience with Bai Hui. She often revealed the conspiracy to turn Bai Hui into Lu Chang'an's plaything. As a result, the relationship with Bai Fen became better and better. When I came here, I told you that talking about conspiracy will turn into a joke. Lu Chang'an snorted. Zhu Huntang and Shang Guandandan often tried to plot and trick him, but he never took them to heart. Go away, don't hinder my study. Zhu Huntang walked past Lu Chang'an in a swaggering manner and gave him a push. Unfortunately, even though it was the same go away as the activating spell in the kitchen yesterday, and it was obviously the same unintentional push, the energy of the 9th stage of Baa's power still didn't burst out and knock him away. Seeing this extremely arrogant stupid sheep, Lu Chang'an clenched his fists. If she hadn't gone to the study to find Lu Yuang, she would have been cooked. And Nuan quickly grabbed her boyfriend who was about to go berserk, never thinking that one day she would stop him from beating up the girls who were close to him. She was obviously very happy to see him fighting those cha-cha before. Forget it, why are you arguing with Miss Zhu? I think her mental age is about 3, 4, 5, or 6 years old. And Nuan held his arm tightly in her arms, letting him feel the tenderness and tolerance of a mature woman, and from then on diverting attention from a childish child who was angry and ran away. She is just a gestational sac expelled from the body, Lu Chang'an cursed in the direction of the study. You are the ginseng wolf. Zhu Huntang's clear voice came from the study. And Nuan couldn't help but remember that before the college entrance examination last year, when she went to Lu Chang'an's house to eat dog meat, Zhou Dongdong had a similar quarrel with him, but Zhou Dongdong was cuter and would not make Lu Chang'an angry. Chang'an, you and Nuan go out for a while. I'm giving lessons to the eldest lady. Don't let her get distracted, Lu Yuang said in the study. She was wearing a backless dress today, with only her long hair loose. It can cover up some of the charming moonlight that is slightly exposed. Lu Yuang liked the clothing design that showed off her figure and had a subtle feminine taste. However, knowing that Lu Chang'an was coming today and Nuan had been nagging her all morning to let her change clothes, Lu Yuang would rather agree to stay. If you don't come out of the study, you won't change it? Let's go, I have the car keys and I'll drive my mother's new car. And Nuan pulled Lu Chang'an and prepared to leave. Professor Lu is wearing a backless dress, which is simply the level of a cupid, making men unable to extricate themselves. Looking at the smooth, delicate, and graceful back like a ski jump, who doesn't want to feel the ups and downs of the ride? Although her mother promised to stay in the study and not come out, if she excused herself from eating bad food or drinking too much water, couldn't Nuan let her solve it in the study? Lu Chang'an didn't know this information. After all, Professor Lu wouldn't send him selfies like others when he had nothing to do. He had sent them before, I think he had. Cannot remember. Staying at home and waiting for Zhu Huntang is actually not boring, after all, and Nuan is by his side. After many people have been with their girlfriends for a long time, they will become bored and uncomfortable when they are alone, but that is not the case for a beautiful girl like Nuan. It's a good way to pass the time with her. If you touch her little hands, you will find that her fingers are soft and gentle, and the back of her hands is smooth and delicate. Her hands can make people spend time in admiration. If you look at her eyebrows, eyes, mouth, and nose, they are all so delicate and beautiful. If you look closely at her lip lines, you will feel that the Venus statues and paper figures you admired in the past are not as good as the real ones. The lip lines made her moist little mouth even more attractive. Didn't 3 or 5 hours pass by savoring it carefully? Hey, there are more wonderful things, too many to mention. Lu Chang'an and Nuan came to the parking space of her home. Professor Liu's Porsche, which had been decorated in a pink girlish style, was parked quietly. There was a cute beginner on the road style sticker on the rear compartment glass. Is she a newbie? However, Professor Liu's driving style is definitely that of a novice. I'm going to test you. Only if you answer one question correctly can you get on the bus, and Nuan emphasized the word get on the bus with a pun. Tell me what you want. Lu Chang'an put her arms around his slender waist. Today she wore a thin cotton shirt under her coat that seemed to have been washed many times. It was the best texture to match a girl's skin. When it comes to limited lunch break, what do you think of first? And Nuan smiled, a little shy, but she didn't want to give him a hint by showing her shyness. Our room. It's a simple question, you answered it correctly, and Nuan quickly turned around and opened the car door, but there is no reward. Just allow me to get in the car. Lu Chang'an pulled her to the trunk and sat down. An hour is a long time to study, but it is a bit short and unnecessary to go to the hourly room. As soon as the couple in love got in the car, their eyes met for a moment and they kissed each other. It wasn't until a cat jumped on the hood and purred that the two of them drove the car away from Orange Circle. And Nuan had long wanted to try this new car, but Lu Chang'an was sitting next to her. Dare to go out with confidence. As soon as she went out, she met another Macan that was equally slow. Even the color was the same. And Nuan was a little curious. When she drove over, she found that it was Bai Hui, who looked serious as if she was driving a bumper car. There was no boyfriend in her passenger seat, only a cousin. Hi, what a coincidence. And Nuan raised her head slightly and greeted Bai Cha Cha. Oh, no, she was greeting her good friend Bai Hui. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 994. Zhongqing glanced at An Nuan and then at Lu Chang'an, who was sitting in the passenger seat over there. She silently adjusted her seat back so as not to disturb her cousin and An Nuan's eye contact, making it easier for them to interact and fully aware of the details between each other's eyebrows and eyes, as well as their rich body language. Opposite Lu Chang'an seemed to have the same tacit understanding, but he would not block the sight of Bai Hui and An Nuan. He adjusted his seat, probably just hoping to reduce his presence, make himself less noticeable, and less involved. The probability of strife. Yeah, what a coincidence. Did you drive the new car that your mother bought at the car show next to the last comic show? Bai Hui leaned forward to make it easier to talk to An Nuan. Yeah. Let me take a walk and drive for fun. And Nuan glanced at Bai Hui's upper body line that was even more exaggerated due to the seat belt because she leaned forward, and stretched. Who doesn't know how to do this? Ah. And Nuan's fat reserves are naturally not as good as those of Bai Fen, but they still have some weight. It's just that the athletic girl's figure is more upright, and her figure is more well proportioned with curves. She doesn't look bulky. To be honest, there are several short and fat people who are not. What kind of body shape does a person have? For example, those welfare girls with exaggerated sizes on Weibo. A plump but well-proportioned beautiful girl figure like An Nuan is the real beauty in the world. I hope that someone will always maintain the same taste and standards as myself in aesthetics. An Nuan glanced at Lu Chang'an from the corner of his eye. He was sending a message on his cell phone and was not attracted by Bianist's enchanting little moves. I'm also trying out a car. I don't know what car to buy yet. My cousin lent me a car so I can get a feel for it first. Bai Hui explained that she was not rich enough to casually offer a car with a landing price of more than 600,000 of luxury cars. At the same time, she also hoped that someone would hear the explanation. She didn't mean to drive the same car as An Nuan. The last time she mentioned buying a car at his house, she was talking about a red Volvo. He also suspected that she was deliberately trying to hit the same car as An Nuan. Now that she has changed to another model and still bumped into each other, he can't blame her. Bar. Hearing that he was mentioned in the topic, Zhongqing smiled sideways while sending a message, and waved his hand to say hello to An Nuan. An Nuan also smiled and nodded. It's great to have such a cousin. If I had known you were going to buy this car, I would have had some connections that would make it easier to pick up the car. But Professor Lu also has many connections, so I don't need to worry about it, Zhongqing said with a smile. How is this car? Bai Hui asked, stroking the steering wheel. I don't know. I haven't driven it a few times, and I'm getting familiar with it, and this is my mother's car. The old car she got rid of is the one she drove for me. He and Nuan finished speaking and paused. After a pause, if you don't mind that the quality is not as good as Porsche, I think Volvo is pretty good, and it just happens to have a new model. Ah, that's right. The Korean drama I watched recently, It's Okay, was a product placement for Volvo. The heroine drove the car so beautifully and sassy. I felt like I was being tricked. She has feelings for He Anyuan and herself. With the same preference and tacit understanding, Bai Hui's tone was a little excited. If you really buy it, we can drive there next time we have a class reunion, and everyone will feel like we are good sisters, and Nuan said expectantly. What? We are good sisters, Bai Hui said angrily. Yes, haha. Yeah, haha. Let's go now, we have to go to class later. Goodbye. After the two people chatted, they walked away in tacit agreement, so that it was basically impossible to meet again. Bai Hui drove the car for a short distance and then stopped. Zhongqing got out and bought 2 cans of soda. Lu Chang'an didn't say a word just now. He didn't say hello. He just pretended that he didn't see me. He didn't even say hello to you. Bai Hui took the can of soda water handed over by her cousin, opened it and took a sip. The slightly cold feeling accompanied by the rolling bubbles made her grit her teeth and take a breath of comfort. No, Lu Chang'an and I were texting each other. He said that when you want to end the conversation, you will definitely make an appointment with each other to go shopping together. Zhongqing adjusted his eyes, his flat belly undulating and his waist swaying. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Haha, you two are really good at acting. Zhongqing also heard Bai Hui say that Lu Chang'an was only one of the reasons why Bai Hui and An Nuan didn't get along. The two had a competitive relationship since they entered high school and disliked each other. Zhongqing also asked, if Bai Hui and An Nuan were good friends from the beginning, would Bai Hui fall in love with Lu Chang'an? Bai Hui did not answer this question. It's disgusting. Where can we make an appointment to go shopping together? Bai Hui's cheeks turned red and she stamped her feet angrily. This Lu Chang'an, it's okay if he doesn't say hello to me, and he even moved his seat to the back, as if that way I can't see him, he just ignore me. Didn't you make an appointment to go to the class reunion together? That's about right. Zhongqing smiled and shook his head, still a naive little girl. Even in the matter of stealing their boyfriends, they are coy and unwilling to break up. In a wealthy family like the Zhu family, many girlfriends of those playboys want to get high, but they will definitely be at war with each other, poison, disfigure and murder. He really does everything possible, even more so than those in the rich-themed TV dramas produced in Taiwan. Actually, An Nuan and I have a really good relationship. I just hate Lu Chang. And Bai Hui snorted and said with some grudge, last time I commented on his moments, he didn't reply to me. It's been many days, but this guy often doesn't even reply to his girlfriend's comments. Zhongqing shook his head. Do you mind if he doesn't reply to your moments? So for the fact that he wants to be Zongqing's godfather, should Zhongqing hold grudges? By the way, he knocked her unconscious. Zhongqing will definitely hold grudges about this matter. What does not replying to the comments on moments mean in comparison? Little girls are really petty. Hey, this car seems to be leaking oil from the chassis. Bai Hui discovered something wrong. Zhongqing also bent down and took a look, but she was wearing a one-step skirt, so it was not very convenient to see the chassis, so she had to say, "The Porsche seems to be a Volkswagen, German car." "Ah, it's okay." Bai Hui finished drinking the water and did not look for car repair tools such as oil paper bags in the car. "Let's go, cousin, let's go take a look at Volvo cars." "Do you really want to drive the same brand of car as her?" "I like it myself." Bai Hui had already made it clear that she was just being teased by the TV series. "I used to know a person who gave away cars according to the cup size of his lover. A cup buys an A-class car, B cup buys a B-class car, C cup buys a C-class car, and D cup is a luxury large car, such as the Audi A8, Mercedes-Benz S-Class, BMW 7 Series, etc." "Ha ha ha, then what car should I buy?" "Stupid, is this a good thing to say? Why do you do it yourself?" "Oh." And Nuan drove around for a while and drove into a remote grove. The shade of the trees prevents the sun from leaking in, and the dark green background is reflected in the eyes. The concrete road breaks off deep into the woods, and there are only a few empty concrete tables and chairs in front of it. This kind of place is usually a good place for couples to go on a date, but there are many places like Hunan University, and wild mandarin ducks can't be seen mingling intimately everywhere. And Nuan first found the TV series Bai Hui was talking about, and then searched for relevant clips of car product placement. "Is this implant done well?" and Nuan asked Lu Chang'an to watch the clip together. Sellers show Lu Chang'an disagreed. "Have you never seen your mother driving her own car? The heroines in this TV series are not as good in figure and appearance, they are not as good as you." And Nuan looked at Lu Chang'an calmly. "Who are you inferior to?" "Not as good as you," Lu Chang'an replied firmly. That's more or less. In fact, whether he is talking about his mother or himself, it can be considered that he is telling the truth, as long as he doesn't say that both are inferior to Bai Hui. External conflicts are always more important than internal conflicts. And Nuan has no intention of implementing the policy that in order to resist foreign aggression, one must first settle the domestic conflict. "I feel that the temperament of this car is not very suitable for Bai Fen. Her cousin is about the same. Her cousin has the temperament of the heroine in the TV series, but her figure is better. Her sisters are the type with exaggerated body proportions." And Nuan turned off the video. Zhongqing drives a Maserati, just like her cousin. She is also the brand she chooses for product placement in the TV series she watches. Lu Chang'an and Zhongqing are also very familiar with each other. Being able to eat hot pot with Lu Chang'an means that they have a good relationship. "Are you familiar with her?" "Of course, we just had hot pot together a few days ago." "Do you want to go to my house to have hot pot tonight?" Lu Chang'an suddenly thought that An Nuan didn't know Shang Guandandan. Shang Guandandan is running some small circles. Although Lu Chang'an thinks there is no need for An Nuan to deliberately get to know Shang Guandantan, girls are very concerned about whether they can integrate into and get in touch with these small circles. Just like Bai Hui discovered that all the friends she knew cared about Shang Guandandan, but Shang Guandandan was a little cold to her, Bai Hui wanted to have a good relationship with Shang Guandandan, and even asked for leave from class to accompany Shang Guandandan to get rid of his beard. And lost a lot of money. "Okay. I haven't rested for a long time, so I won't be training today," Annan said with determination, glancing at Lu Chang'an's rear-moving passenger seat, "but I'm a little hungry now." Lu Chang'an looked at her moist lips and shy eyes. He was worthy of her. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but think that in this situation, the man was usually in the driver's seat. All kinds of requests. "I'm really immortal." Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 995. And Nuan drove home with some sadness and satisfaction. She used to be such a pure and shy girl, but now she knows everything and is so proactive. It's just that many times as a girlfriend, doing this kind of thing really gives you a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, just like men often go to great lengths to let girls learn to fly and fly to the clouds to catch birds to eat. Back home, Zhu Huntang just came out of the study, and An Nuan greeted him with a smile. You just finished studying? Let's go to class then. I'm tired, let's take a rest first. Zhu Huntang sat on the sofa. Your mother gave me some reading lists: Silk Road, food, housing, and transportation in the Song Dynasty, appellations of the ancients, in Tang poems A Lonely Walk and Tokyo Dreams made me take the time to read them in my busy schedule. After saying that, Zhu Huntang collapsed on the sofa and sneered. Why are you sneering? Lu Chang'an frowned. He remembered that in the past, Professor Lu would always mock An Nuan when he had nothing to do. It turns out that parents will always dislike their children from time to time, no matter if she is like An Nuan or Zhu Huntang. It's ridiculous. I have never read a book in my entire life. She actually asked me to read so many books. I think I have to be 30, 40, 60 years old. I can't finish it until I'm 60. After reading it, Zhu Huntang recalled that she couldn't even finish the picture books from her childhood, not to mention that these were definitely books with words and not many pictures. Do you think that when you are 60, you will have enough fun and can read a book? Lu Chang'an asked calmly. Zhu Huntang nodded casually, then quickly turned to look at Lu Chang'an. Are you planning to wait until I am 60 years old, continue to torture me, and make me read every day? You said it yourself. Lu Chang'an felt that based on the learning system of ordinary people, Zhu Huntang's current learning efficiency may not be able to complete the courses that ordinary people study in college at the age of 60. Learning is also a matter of course. Zhu Huntang jumped up and wanted to fight Lu Chang'an. She was just talking casually about this bad old man. He didn't want to study before he was 60. After he turned 60, he would of course have to lie down and waste his life every day. How could he continue to study? Lu Chang'an stretched out his finger and flicked Zhu Huntang on the forehead, then bounced her back to the sofa. Hey, Zhu Huntang yelled in pain, and planned to rush up and fight with him. An Nuan quickly grabbed Zhu Huntang, who was only tenacious when fighting with Lu Chang'an. He kept fighting and fought repeatedly. He was joking. If you fight with him, he can smash your head. You can't. I can't touch him. An Nuan suddenly understood her mother a little bit. When she was a child, she had the same image of a bear and a fool in her eyes, right? My life has no meaning anymore. Zhu Huntang couldn't help but have tears in his eyes. Now he has to go to class every day and make up extra classes. He has to continue studying after he is 60 years old. What hope is there for such a life? What I was born to do is not want to study. Think about how carefree you were before you met Lu Chang'an. No, what a carefree little fairy. Reading a book is really a very simple thing. I don't tell you to finish it as soon as possible. You read it slowly. You can read 1 or 2 pages every day. The key is to develop the habit of reading, and then you will find that reading it's not as uncomfortable as you think. At this time, Lu Yuang walked out of the study room and tried to persuade her. An Nuan took a look and saw that her mother's shawl had slipped a little, exposing her round and beautiful shoulders, but at least it had covered all the possible exposure of her back and waist. It's just that she now also understands the special thoughts of some men, so covering up like this makes her more sexy. Fortunately, her mother said a few words to Zhu Huntang, then turned and walked into the bedroom. The back view was very touching, but she quickly closed the door. An Nuan imagined for a while that she really couldn't control her mother's mature, sexy, yet elegant style. A girl should have the characteristics of a girl, and she couldn't forcefully imitate the charm of an older woman, which needs time to settle. To put it simply, as soon as I opened the book and saw those densely packed words, I felt like they turned into bricks hitting my head. Zhu Huntang sat up angrily. Why can't you people do you understand my feelings like Dong Dong? Lu Chang'an sighed. Birds of a feather flock together, and only a rare human cub like Zhou Dong Dong can understand a cub of extraordinary creatures like you who are more confused. Haven't you read Ziji Tong Jian before? What I'm looking at are pictures. Paintings. Books. With pinyin, Zhu Huntang said word by word, who would read it if it wasn't a picture book. She also collected the ancient Chinese version of Zizi Tongjian in a sandalwood bookcase without pictures or pinyin and a golden laid jade cover. But wasn't that just for taking pictures and as a background? And Nuan couldn't help laughing. She had only read picture books when she was in elementary school. She forgot what grade she was in. She was used to looking up the dictionary while reading books, and no longer deliberately looked for versions with pinyin. Let's go to class first, Lu Chang'an sighed. Although Zhu Huntang felt that studying with Lu Yuwang for an hour at noon and having to attend the afternoon class non-stop was simply torturing her in a cruel way, there was nothing she could do, and Lu Chang'an caught up with her with a bicycle chain. This bicycle chain was brought by Professor Lu to Linan last year to beaten Nuan and Lu Chang'an. Professor Lu brought it back from Linan and asked Lu Chang'an to find it on the top of the refrigerator. Lu Chang'an felt that this was really a good thing, at least it was full of deterrence for Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang had never seen such a thing before and was very scared and had to temporarily surrender. The afternoon class was in the lecture theater. And Nuan's arrival once again attracted attention. It was very common for a girlfriend to accompany her to class, but such a beautiful girlfriend was not common, especially since Nuan was extremely popular at Hunan University. The students in the front row often looked back. Nuan was slightly upright, with the beautiful smile on her face that her mother had when taking pictures of her. Girlfriends are very useful, and earning face for him is also a very important scope of authority. This is an obligation, and it is also a right. Other women children are not qualified for this. Qin's Haiqiang, Wei Xuanyi, and Sun Shutong came over, and Nuan smiled and said hello. Although there was no contact, Nuan had actually met Lu Chang'an, the three roommates who were not roommates, when school started last year. That was also the first time that Wei Xuanyi and the three of them were amazed at Xiang University. Then they met Zhu Huntang, and they formed the illusion that when looking for a girlfriend, they should look for this level, mainly Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong. Qin's Haiqiang did not have this illusion. At that time, Qin's Haiqiang was obsessed with drawing cards and found two-dimensional wives one after another. So the three of them sat next to Lu Chang'an. Qin's Haiqiang actively and professionally praised Nuan's lipstick color. After chatting for a few more words, he turned to look at Tong 11 who was paying attention. This is a strategy that Qin's Haiqiang, Wei Xuanyi, and Sun Shutong came up with. Chatting more with other beauties will keep Tong 11 from feeling too good about herself. Tong 11 glanced back and quickly sent a message to Bai Hui to report the new situation. She felt that Bai Hui would never only pay attention to Yan Qingcheng. Zhu Huntang was scheming and had his own strategy. He sat in the front row and waited at the table. Yan Qingcheng followed the helicopter that sent her mother back to her hometown today, and then took the return helicopter back together. There was a slight delay and she did not come to class as early as usual. "Why are you sitting here today?" Yan Qingcheng entered the classroom and saw Zhu Huntang sitting in the front row. She was a rare guest in the front row. Normally, she would sit in the front row and denounce Lu Chang'an's cruelty with Yan Qingcheng only when Lu Chang'an took care of her and wanted to be coquettish and comforted. Yan Qingcheng glanced behind her and saw that Nuan and Lu Chang'an were sitting together. Nuan was chatting with several of Lu Chang'an's roommates, and they seemed quite animated. Lu Chang'an was holding a shiny new bicycle chain in his hand, with an expression of infatuated satisfaction on his face, like those cultivators in fantasy novels who finally obtained the ultimate treasure and killed their old enemies. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but shook her head. She recalled her impression of Lu Chang'an when school started, and she saw that it had changed a lot compared to now. In addition to the more familiar reasons, Yan Qingcheng suspected that the main reason was that Zhu Huntang tortured Lu Chang'an's cold, casual, and indifferent nature. Nuan is actually Lu Ban, Zhu Huntang said mysteriously. "You know Nuan? She is Lu Chang'an's girlfriend." "I know each other," We are in the same club. Yan Qingcheng asked strangely. What Lubin? Lubin no 7. Lubin number 7 is a character in the game Honor of Kings. He is always jumping around and likes to taunt people. Yan Qingcheng thinks Zhu Huntang is more like Lubin number 7, while An Nuan is more like those who often make people lick their skin. A popular beauty character. What is Lubin no 7? It was Zhu Huntang's turn not to understand. A character in a game Yan Qingcheng doesn't actually play, but there are too many people playing around. Don't relax in your studies just because you have a role model like me. You should be nervous all the time so that you can have stronger working ability to help me do things in the future. Play less games, Zhu Huntang warned her earnestly, even though she was more wary of Yan Qingcheng. Hoeing power, but for Yan Qingcheng. Yan Qingcheng was stunned for a moment, and she couldn't help but worry. Will she lose her true heart like Lu Chang'an and become explosive and manic in the future? Okay, why do you say An Nuan is actually Lu Ban? Yan Qingcheng took a deep breath and sat down calmly. Lu Ban is a famous house repairer, do you know that? Zhu Huntang spread knowledge about historical figures to her. He can predict cracks in the walls and corners of the house, and he will come to repair them in time. Yan Qingcheng nodded. Chatting with Zhu Huntang can always increase his knowledge and refresh his inherent knowledge. People in Yushanfu don't speak too directly. Zhu Huntang pointed it out. Although Yan Qingcheng's expression was calm, in fact, his heart was already like waves, like a white fennel bear leaping, like Qinyanan's rabbit jumping. Mountains collapsed and the waves were ups and downs. Ups and downs. An Nuan is actually Professor Liu's daughter. Zhu Huntang continued to break the news. Although this was her guess and analysis and there was not much evidence, Zhu Huntang couldn't be wrong. Zhu Huntang wants Yan Qingcheng to know that even though she can pick and dig, An Nuan herself also has the temptation of dual identities, and Yan Qingcheng actually has no advantages or special features. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 996. The cold wind of early spring seemed to have left Juncha last night. Yan Qingcheng was wearing a single coat, and her figure was straight and tall. Compared to An Nuan's athletic beauty, who was toned and soft, she was a little thinner. By arranging her hair, her eyes wandered over An Nuan and Lu Chang'an, and she took a long breath. Knowing that Zhu Huntang was observing her, she forcibly suppressed her heaving chest to make herself appear calm. Yan Qingcheng's ability to accumulate and rationally use fat is naturally not as good as that of kings like Bai Hui and Qinyanan, but if she is too excited, it will easily cause her external performance to be discovered. Zhu Huntang can always reveal important information in just a few words. The more times she does, the more times it happens, the more Yan Qingcheng will inevitably suspect that she did it on purpose. After being in contact with her for a long time, Yan Qingcheng also knows that if she really treats Zhu Huntang as a person with no breasts, the ignorant little eldest daughter, those who think like this are really naive. An Nuan is actually Professor Liu's daughter. This sentence made Yan Qingcheng stir up a storm in his heart. The premise of this sentence is that Professor Liu already has a daughter. When we were at Nanshan Ranch, Zhu Huntang had a video chat with Professor Liu, and he called Yan Qingcheng to video together. At that time, Yan Qingcheng saw Professor Liu's attitude towards Zhu Huntang, and combined with some details, he determined that Zhu Huntang was very good. Maybe she is Professor Liu's daughter. It's just that Yan Qingcheng didn't dare to gossip. She felt more pressure in life than ordinary girls when she was growing up, and she was more cautious. She would not naively think that misfortune comes from mouth is far away from her, and it involves the Zhu family. Is that kind of wealthy family allowed to talk nonsense? Yesterday at Qinyanan's house, Yan Qingcheng felt it even more. Zhu Huntang repeatedly tried to interfere with Professor Lu and Yan Qingqing's being alone together. His secret observation and ready-to-move appearance looked very much like a family that had just given birth to a second child. The boss was suspicious of his father. Mom gave her love to her second child. But the problem now is that Zhu Huntang did not really admit that she was Professor Liu's daughter, and the third wife did not publicly express any relationship with Professor Liu. Zhu Huntang was just a descendant of Professor Liu. On the contrary, it is because of the relationship between her mother and Professor Liu, and Professor Liu's attitude towards Yan Qingcheng yesterday. On the surface, Yan Qingcheng is more like Professor Liu's public daughter and stepdaughter, or she will call him dad, that person. In this case, what Zhu Huntang did was based on her position as Professor Liu's daughter, but what she said was from the position of a bystander. She would not directly blame Yan Qingcheng, but directly it is revealed that she is Professor Liu's daughter. Now, could Zhu Huntang's words mean, "Don't think that you are the only one who may have this kind of relationship with Professor Liu because of your mother Yan Hui. In fact, En Nuan is the same as you." After understanding Zhu Huntang's hidden position, Yan Qingcheng was not too surprised by the possibility that En Nuan was also Professor Liu's daughter. Because Yan Qingcheng immediately remembered Professor Liu, who she happened to meet when her mother met Professor Liu that day. From En Nuan, we can see what kind of stunning beauty her mother is. What's more, in terms of figure, En Nuan is not better than others, although in the eyes of girls, En Nuan's figure is perfect, but in the overall social environment, many people still think that Professor Liu is because of the cup size. Relationships may be more attractive. Professor Liu and his mother were contemporaries. Since the mother would be Professor Liu's lover, it was entirely possible that Professor Liu and Professor Liu had a past. The problem is, En Nuan is Lu Chang'an's girlfriend. Although Yan Qingcheng no longer wants to pay attention to whether Professor Liu is Lu Chang'an, she is more and more sure of her judgment. Combining Zhu Huntang's words with many hints and subconscious performances, Yan Qingcheng suddenly understood what Zhu Huntang really meant. "I, Zhu Huntang, am Professor Liu's biological daughter. You, Yan Qingcheng, don't try to compete with me for favor. At most, you can enjoy a warm and comfortable treatment. You stepdaughters are trying to be your girlfriends. Tisk tisk, she is indeed a rich young lady who grew up in a wealthy family." One word can reveal so many meanings. Fortunately, she can understand it, otherwise she would be stabbed by Zhu Huntang one day without knowing the reason. En Nuan is Professor Liu's daughter? However, I think you and Professor Liu are closer, more like a father-daughter relationship. Last time I saw you on a video call with Professor Liu, I thought he was your biological father. We had dinner yesterday, everyone is coaxing you, maybe it's because of Professor Liu's face, who asked him to treat you as his own daughter. Yan Qingqing's thoughts were racing, and she vaguely felt that Zhu Huntang was waiting for her here today. She just wanted to test whether Yan Qingcheng was in a nuanced situation, whether she cared more about her relationship with Lu Chang'an, or whether she was like Zhu Huntang, more concerned about the relationship with Professor Liu, and whether he wants to compete with her for favor. Really? That bad old man just doesn't like anything about me. Zhu Huntang snorted and sat down, holding up the hem of his skirt and twisting it left and right. Seeing her flushed cheeks and holding her head proudly, it was clear that she was satisfied with her ambitions. Yan Qingcheng couldn't help but feel a little sad. Maybe this was the reality. She had to start to learn to flatter, only flatter and flatter others, and only talk about others. I love hearing it. But that's nothing, right? Aren't we all the same? Zhu Huntang also has people she wants to please. She is treated like a dog by Lu Chang'an and time again. Why doesn't she still rub up against her and act coquettishly? Yesterday, Professor Liu said that he would let Lu Chang'an take good care of himself in the future. He wouldn't let Lu Chang'an treat him the same way as En Nuan, right? If this is the case, it would be a bit bad, but it shouldn't be. Yan Qingcheng tried to calm down, sat next to Zhu Huntang and opened the book. The teacher also walked into the classroom. Listening to the class carefully is the most important thing now. He can't be like Zhu Huntang, he thinks about things all day long and doesn't want to study. Lu Chang'an found a bicycle chain today. He wants to use that thing to whip me. Zhu Huntang turned his head again and lowered his voice. After class is over later, you go talk to him to attract his attention, and I'll go get that thing stuff stolen. Yan Qingcheng has regained Zhu Huntang's trust. It seems that she is also a very sensitive girl and understands Zhu Huntang's meaning. Zhu Huntang is not so vigilant as to prohibit Yan Qingcheng from contacting Lu Chang'an. This is also the T technique that Zhu Huntang learned from Bai Hui. It is necessary to be defensive when other girls come into contact with Lu Chang'an, but you must not deliberately prevent other girls from coming into contact with him, as that will be counterproductive. My girlfriend came to accompany him to class, and I went out of my way to attract his attention? I won't do it. Yan Qingcheng shook his head. She felt that An Nuan often came to accompany Lu Chang'an in class, which was absolutely necessary to deter some Ho gods and their spies who were ready to take action. In this situation, Yan Qingcheng came over and chatted with An Nuan for a few words. Wouldn't it be provoking An Nuan to attract Lu Chang'an's attention? Zhu Huntang thought about it, but this method didn't work, so he said, I'll attract his attention, and you can help me steal the bicycle chain. She goes. This means that if she attracts Lu Chang'an's attention, she won't arouse An Nuan's resentment? It seems that his analysis is indeed correct. Zhu Huntang feels that he is his biological daughter and there is no need to avoid suspicion. Even if An Nuan does not know such a secret, he also knows that there is no ambiguity between Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang. Maybe in An Nuan's eyes, Zhu Huntang is just Lu Chang'an's sister. I won't go either. Don't underestimate Lu Chang'an's vigilance against you. If I are discovered, he will most likely see through that it was you who instigated it, and you will be the one who gets beaten. Yan Qingcheng shook his head. Mr. Zhu Tang has too much capital and confidence, so he often does things without considering the consequences. Yan Qingcheng has to think carefully before and after. Zhu Huntang frowned. In short, he must find a way to steal the bicycle chain today. Although he has not been beaten yet, the thing gave Zhu Huntang an unprecedented sense of threat, even more than the small bag filled with sheep dung balls at Nanshan Ranch. Trailer. Her eyes turned left and right, and she caught sight of Tong 11, who was sitting in the other row. Tong 11 was looking around, sometimes looking behind, sometimes looking in front, like a gossip. So Zhu Huntang walked over. After class, Tong 11 came to Lu Chang'an and asked, Lu Chang'an, in the homework given by the teacher in last class, do you know this question? Lu Chang'an glanced at it. The paraboloid z equals x2 plus y2 was cut into an ellipse by the plane x plus y plus z equal 1. Find the maximum and minimum distances from the points on the ellipse to the origin. Quite a simple question. Can you do it? Lu Chang'an turned his head and asked An Nuan. Yes, let me talk to you, An Nuan said to Tong 11 with a smile, and reached out to take the exercise book from Tong 11's hand. Tong 11 was helpless. She couldn't ask Lu Chang'an to tell the truth. She remembered that last year, there were rumors that Lu Chang'an himself was a top student and his girlfriend was also a top student. She didn't dare to look at Zhu Huntang, who was moving cautiously, so she had to listen to An Nuan's explanation attentively. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an also stood side by side next to An Nuan to watch her lecture, and did not pay attention to Zhu Huntang, who was approaching furtively from the side and behind. Zhu Huntang saw Lu Chang'an putting the bicycle chain in the drawer. He could steal it just by reaching over from his side. She first made a shushing gesture to tell Qin's Haiqiang and others who saw her to be silent, and then took the bicycle chain into her hands at lightning speed. Ha ha ha. Zhu Huntang couldn't help but burst into laughter. She decided to call herself a robber. With such skills, it would be a pity not to be a thief. Lu Chang'an looked back at her, ignored her, and turned around to watch An Nuan's lecture. In fact, it is not only men who reveal a charming temperament when they work and study seriously, but also girls. An Nuan was very serious when she lectured on the topic. Listening to her gentle and rhythmic speech, her white and soft hand held the pen and wrote out the elegant and neat problem-solving steps. Even Tong 11 forgot that she was acting and nodded in response to An Nuan. Explanation. Hey, Zhu Huntang was stunned for a moment and shouted involuntarily. She even stole his bicycle chain, but he didn't get furious. Normally, he would have jumped out of the bench seat, so Zhu Huntang quickly threw the bicycle chain out of the rear window. When Lu Chang'an heard her cry, he turned around and pretended to reach out. Zhu Huntang turned around and ran away, forgetting to throw away the bicycle chain. Returning to his seat, Zhu Huntang was puzzled. Why didn't he come after him? There must be some other conspiracy. Zhu Huntang hurriedly put away the bicycle chain. Could it be that this thing was just for scaring people, but it didn't actually hurt if it hit him? How about letting him whip it once to see if it really hurts and then destroy it? It's better not to. This kind of thinking is like a mental illness. Even after thinking about it, Zhu Huntang still couldn't understand how Lu Chang'an could still be so comfortable after losing his chain. It was probably because he had a girlfriend and forgot about it. Zhu Huntang felt unhappy, but he was too lazy to compete with An Nuan for favor. She was not Bai Hui or Qin Yanan. But now that the treasure is in his hands, he has to take a preemptive strike. When Shang Guandandan appears, he will use the chain to whip him, and then hide behind Shang Guandandan. Haha, with Dandan's protection, he is invincible. Zhu Huntang held the bicycle chain with both hands, imagining Lu Chang'an squealing as he was whipped. Yan Qingcheng glanced at Zhu Huntang and couldn't help but wonder if this bicycle chain was really a treasure. Otherwise, why would Zhu Huntang have the same expression of satisfaction as Lu Chang'an when he holds it in his hand, as if those cultivators in fantasy novels have finally obtained the ultimate treasure and can kill their old enemies? I found that many book friends have started bleeding unconsciously, and the whole group is bleeding. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 997. Yan Qingcheng originally thought that Zhu Huntang would throw away Lu Chang'an's bicycle chain after stealing it, but she never thought that she would play with it herself. What's the point of stealing it? When Lu Chang'an wanted to beat her later, he didn't snatch her away just as easily, and he probably beat her even harder. She didn't want to remind her at first, but after recalling Zhu Huntang's pitiful look every time he was bullied by Lu Chang'an, Yan Qingcheng felt a little soft-hearted and expressed her worries to persuade Zhu Huntang to throw away the chain. It doesn't matter. I will bear the burden for the time being and pretend to be under someone else's roof. When Dandan supports me, I will beat him into chaos. Zhu Huntang used 3 idioms in one breath to increase his momentum. I think what you're talking about is that you can endure the humiliation for the time being, swallow your anger, and be caught off guard. After Yan Qingcheng finished speaking, he shook his head and ignored her. Zhu Huntang easily confuses various words. Yan Qingcheng suspected that the word carrying forward with a heavy load has appeared more recently on social media, so she learned it, but she didn't quite understand how to use it. Just use it in similar places. This is similar to those people who learn a word or know that taking sides on a certain hot social event can gain a sense of superiority, so they use it everywhere. The essence of words is to express one's own meaning. Since you can understand what I want to say, it means that there is no problem with my use. Besides, relying on others and swallowing your anger are synonyms. Zhu Huntang disagreed. Yan Qingcheng shook his head. Fortunately, the person in charge of teaching traditional culture and poetry was Professor Liu. He taught courses on mathematics, physics, and biochemistry. Well, thinking about Zhu Huntang's understanding of rational and irrational numbers, it seems that he might not have the same understanding. Easy. After class in the afternoon, Lu Chang'an invited Yan Qingcheng, who was going to teach Zhu Huntang in the evening, to have hot pot together. Yan Qingcheng smiled and expressed regret that there was something to deal with in the student union. When it was over, she would go directly to Beilong Center to wait for Zhejun Tang. In fact, if Zhu Huntang had not said those words to Yan Qingcheng today, Yan Qingcheng would have been willing to go, but now Yan Qingcheng wants to show a bit of reserve, indicating that she has no intention of competing with Zhu Huntang for favor, and does not want to follow the rules of Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang's instructions were to dig into An Nuan's corner. Lu Chang'an's corner was already crowded with people, and everyone was waving their hose around. If they tried to get in, someone's hoe might dig their heads to pieces and bleed. So Lu Chang'an took An Nuan and Zhu Huntang to the supermarket to buy some local peppers, vegetables and seasonings. Zhu Huntang asked his kitchen to send some hot pot ingredients and tableware, and help Lu Chang'an's kitchen clean and disinfect. Zhu Huntang actually eats at Lu Chang'an's place not once or twice, but if he has enough time to prepare, he still has to pay attention to the pomp and circumstance. After leaving the supermarket, Zhou Dongdong's elementary school was on the avenue ahead. Lu Chang'an took Zhu Huntang's car back and usually picked up the clever and brave children. They didn't wait long at the school gate when they saw Zhou Dongdong and Songdazi walking out of the school gate together. Their heads were covered with a mulberry leaf, and they were tied with plastic tape around their heads. Each of them was holding a white small box. Wang Meng arrived just in time and took Songdazi back. Lu Sin emerged from the hedge with his head shaking. He lay down on his body and walked slowly and leisurely, making people feel like he was coquettishly acting towards his owner, minimizing the size of his huge body. A deterrent to passers-by. Many primary school students seemed to be familiar with Lu Sin, and even greeted him and touched their heads before leaving. "Tall sister, I haven't seen you for a long time. Come to our rice noodle shop to eat rice noodles when you have time," Zhou Dongdong greeted An Nuan enthusiastically. "Okay. I will come often in the future." When talking to the cute child, An Nuan's tone became cute. "Why do you stick mulberry leaves on your head?" Because only Daisy is willing to learn the invisibility technique with me. The other children don't want to learn it. The teacher said that sticking mulberry leaves on the forehead is not convenient for learning, so he did it for me, Zhou Dongdong explained actively, but he didn't look particularly frustrated. After all, there was still Songdazi who was willing to learn from him. "Have you seen it? This is the correct way of education. Don't just hit people in the future," Zhu Huntang said with emotion. Why couldn't he meet such a teacher? As long as the bad old man feels that Zhu Huntang's words and deeds are not what he wants, he will only force her. The target of education is human beings, so we use this method. "Are you a human being?" Lu Chang'an said angrily. "Baa. Baa. Baa." Zhu Huntang reached out and pulled Lu Chang'an's ear and shouted loudly. The bicycle chain had been stolen by her anyway, so Zhu Huntang was fearless. "What's in your box?" An Nuan felt that she hadn't played with Zhou Dongdong for a long time, so she asked enthusiastically, wanting to actively interact with the children. Today I carried a bag of mulberry leaves. No one wanted to learn invisibility with me, so the teacher went to the biology section and brought some silkworms and gave them to everyone, so that everyone could use my mulberry leaves to learn how to feed the silkworms." After saying that, Zhou Dongdong jumped up in anticipation. "Then do you know the poem 'The spring silkworm will not run out of silk until it does'? What kind of spirit can we learn from the spring silkworm? This is the spirit of dedication." There is also an idiom called breaking out of the cocoon and rebirth, which describes the silkworm chrysalis. "Silkworm chrysalis is delicious. When I finish raising the silkworm babies, I'll treat you to the silkworm chrysalis." Zhou Dongdong couldn't understand what the elephant sister was talking about, but he was still hospitable. And Nuan was stunned. She also wanted to show that she could integrate the education of children into every detail of her daily life. After all, Lu Chang'an seemed to be very good at educating Zhou Dongdong in this way, and An Nuan had seen it before. Ha ha. Lu Chang'an couldn't help laughing. He usually taught Zhou Dongdong, but sometimes he felt speechless and didn't want to talk to her. Silkworms are human beings' good friends. Lu Chang'an knew that only these words could stop Zhou Dongdong from taking the initiative to eat his good friends. Ouch! Zhou Dongdong yelled to show that he understood. What does silkworms are human beings' good friends have to do with Zhou Dongdong wanting to eat silkworm chrysalises? Lu Chang'an said nothing more and pulled Zhou Dongdong into the nanny car. Zhu Huntang's hunky L5 was long, large, and spacious, but it could only seat 3 people except for the driver. Just like some people just want to study, some people just want to fall in love, and some people just want to eat. Zhu Huntang shook his head and followed with An Nuan, followed by the dog. An Nuan glanced at Zhu Huntang. In Zhu Huntang's circle of friends, who were the people who would make her feel so emotional? The one who just wants to learn should be Yan Qingcheng. In An Nuan's opinion, Yan Qingcheng is not as dedicated to learning as Gao Duai, but considering that Zhu Huntang is unlikely to know more people who just want to learn, then this refers to Yan Qingcheng. Of course Zhou Dongdong, who only knows how to eat, showed this trait just now. Just want to fall in love? It's definitely not An Nuan. An Nuan is already in love, don't think about it. Then who she is referring to, An Nuan doesn't know, haha. Arriving under the sycamore tree, An Nuan felt a little emotional. Ever since she bumped into Qinyan taking the house key to deliver furniture and electrical appliances to Lu Chang'an last year, and walked away, she hadn't come to her boyfriend's house to play for more than 2 million words. This was so unfair. Beaver. But it's only been a little over half a year, but it feels like I haven't been here for several years. Today we should be able to meet Shangguan Dandan, who according to Professor Lu may be Lu Chang'an's mother. Once Lu Chang'an stayed overnight, Professor Lu was affected and had to stay out for the night, and met Shangguan Dandan. According to Professor Liu's analysis, Lu Chang'an's father Lu Professor, he applied the rejuvenation technique to Lu Chang'an's mother. Miss, do you know Shangguan Dandan? While Lu Chang'an was picking fresh and tender mulberry leaves for Zhou Dongdong, which were not suitable for practicing invisibility, but more suitable for silkworms to eat, An Nuan pulled Zhu Huntang aside and asked. Dan Dan. Zhu Huntang raised his head and shouted, but there was no response. It seemed that he was not at home, or sleeping next to the electric heating table, so he turned to An Nuan and said, Dan Dan is Lu Chang'an's mother, and she is also mine. My godmother is one of my supporters. As long as I stay with Dandan, I can even fight Lu Chang'an, and I am almost invincible. An Nuan has always felt that people who like to brag are actually a sign of lack of confidence and lack of self-confidence. She never thought that people like Miss Zhu who can do whatever they want also like to brag. That's right, she is often beaten by Lu Chang'an, and she has the confidence in front of Lu Chang'an. Confidence is weird. But the point is that it turns out that Shangguan Dandan is really Lu Chang'an's mother. Otherwise, how could Zhu Huntang recognize her as his godmother? Lu Chang'an and Zhu Huntang still have this relationship. He does seem like a conscientious elder brother. He has been actively educating and guiding Zhu Huntang. Zhu Huntang should also be very favored by Shangguan Dandan. At least when Zhu Huntang provoked Lu Chang'an, Shangguan Dandan will definitely defend her. That's why she has the courage. Today I came to meet my boyfriend's mother, An Nuan, who had always been confident and especially confident, suddenly became nervous. You guys have fun first. I'll go to the kitchen to put the dishes together. I'll finish cooking later and let Lu Chang'an stir-fry the hot pot base. An Nuan decided to show off her skills. The frying of the hot pot base is directly related to the taste of the hot pot. An Nuan wouldn't go out of his way to take over, as only Lu Chang'an could do this job. But cleaning the ingredients, slicing and arranging the dishes, and setting the table are all things she can do. Zhu Huntang nodded, feeling a little proud. These women want to compete for favor and like to show off in front of Shang Guandandan and Lu Chang'an. Only Zhu Huntang can be arrogant and do whatever he wants. He still rides on Lu Chang'an's head and dominates every day. One living bleed was not killed by him. Thinking of this, Zhu Huntang didn't wait for Shang Guandandan to come back. He snapped his fingers, and the bread man waiting in the distance took the bicycle chain over. All kinds of requests, and besides, I don't have a eunuch, I just have bleats running around in my head, and I'm a little stuck.